Today we're back on the Entitled Parents subreddit and it's going to be so fun. As it is every single time, I'm sure it's going to be terrifying but also infuriating at the same time. Also, this episode is going to have a compilation in it as well. I wanted to make an Entitled Parents compilation, but I was also making a new Entitled Parents episode, so I thought why not put them together. So yeah, this is going to be a brand new Entitled Parents episode, and the compilation will start at this time that I put on the screen. And with that being said, enjoy guys. Entitled Mum doesn't know how triage works. I work at a pediatric emergency room. I encounter lots of entitled parents, but this mum last night almost made me lose my crap. She'd taken her son in because he had an unusual rash on his arm. She was so distressed that entire night and often came up to me to ask how long they would have to keep waiting. I said there weren't enough rooms for everyone to be seen quickly and I apologized for the long wait. Maybe 2 hours after they come, a teenage girl had been taken in by her father. He had to carry her because she was losing consciousness, felt extremely cold and was delirious. Obviously she had to be seen immediately because we suspected that was septic. Patient quickly got moved to the PICU and a wait time for this patient could mean death. The mum accused me of lying that there weren't enough rooms because this girl had gotten a room instantly. I wish people understood that we need to prioritize who gets seen first. Yeah, and what did they expect as well? Like they're gonna go sit down and wait or something? Of course they're gonna get seen first. No, my child has a rash on his arm and this is so much more important. We must go first. Entitled Mum wants me to give her my bracelet because her daughter wants it. I was out shopping at a little boutique minding my own business. As I made my way to the cashier, this woman and her little girl about 6 approached me. This was our conversation. Woman: excuse me, my daughter really loves your bracelet. Me: thank you. Awkward silence where the woman just stares at me as I'm unloading my items at the checkout counter. Woman: I said my daughter really loves your bracelet. Well, what? They expect you to give it to them. Me: I'm sorry, I thought I said thank you, did I not? Woman: you did, but my daughter really loves your bracelet. Me: okay, thank you for the compliment. Little girl whining: Mummy, I want it. Woman: well. I continue to go about my business thinking she's talking to her daughter. Woman: aren't you going to do anything? Oh my god, this is infuriating. Me: I'm sorry, what? Woman: if you didn't hear her, my daughter wants your bracelet. I haven't seen anything like that before. Oh, I didn't realize you wanted to know about it. It's from this company and it's called this. You can wear it outside or charge it with a UV light and it glows. You can order it online from their website. This was a birthday gift from my mum. Woman: I didn't want a sales ad. My daughter wants your bracelet. You can order another one. You need to let my daughter have it. Please tell me this isn't real. Excuse me, you cannot be serious. The little girl stomps her foot. Mummy, I want it. I want it now. The kid's oozing Veruca Salt vibes. Woman: I am serious. She wants it. You're an adult. She's a child. You can get another one. Go ahead and give it to her. Me fed up. Look, I've been nice, but I don't know you or your kid and I'm not giving you my bracelet. Go bother someone else. Little girl starts a fit with crocodile tears and falls on the floor. Starts a flailing around while screaming her head off with a combination of I want it, I want it, I want it. Make her give it to me. You said I could have it. Entitled Mum: do you see what you did? Oh, how dare you? My daughter is heartbroken. You should be ashamed of yourself. No, you should be. Give me that bracelet right now. Me: what I did? Your daughter's a brat and you're enabling her. Get away from me or I'll have them call security. Cashier: ma'am, shall I make that call for you? Cashier to Entitled Mum: ma'am, could you please take her outside if she's gonna have a fit? Entitled Mum pointing at me: no, it's her fault. Turns to me: my daughter wants that bracelet. I'll give you $5. Me: $5? Not that I'd sell it, but it's a $70 bracelet. Entitled Mum: okay, 10. Lady, did you hear me? It's a $70 bracelet and I'm not interested in selling it. It was a birthday gift from my now deceased mother. Entitled Mum: it's used. I'll give you no more than 15. You should be giving it to me for my daughter instead of trying to extort money from me. Be glad that I'm willing to pay it all. Me: you're crazy, lady. Clean out your ears. I'm not giving or selling my bracelet. This is harassment. Take your screaming demon and get out of here before I tell this nice lady to call security. Woman: what did you call my daughter? You're an awful person. My daughter deserves that bracelet. She's been an angel all day and you're making her cry. All she wants is that bracelet. Me to cashier: can you call security? I'm not dealing with this anymore. She picks up a walkie-talkie and speaks into it. Woman: no, we're going. We're going. I hope you can sleep tonight making a little girl cry like this. Me: don't worry, I'll sleep like a baby. Bye now. Me to cashier: go ahead and call security. I have a feeling she'll be waiting for me when I get outside. I can smell the crazy on her. I'd like an escort to my my car if that's not too much trouble. Cashier, I already did. That lady's unhinged. I'm glad you're waiting. I was going to suggest it. I wound up waiting a few moments for security, chatting to the cashier about how we were both shocked by the event and the absolute entitlement and nerve that woman had. I was relieved when security got there. The cashier and I filled the officer in on what had happened, and he said he was happy to accompany me to my car. Sure enough, as I exited the store, the woman and her now silent kid were seated on the bench on the sidewalk outside the shop. They stood up and started walking towards me until they saw the security officer, and they veered off towards another shop quickly. I was so glad to see them go. Has anyone else had someone come up to them and try to guilt or bully you into giving them a personal item? Or am I the only one? It was surreal. It's so hard to believe that that's even a real person. What do you mean somebody came up to you and said this? It's so unbelievable that people are like this. I feel like if I was in that situation, I'd just start laughing because I'd assume they were joking or something. Like, how do you even react to something like this? Entitled parents try to get a free business seat. I was recently on a 3-hour flight, so it was the smallest sort of plane, one of those in which business and economy have the same type of seats and are separated by a curtain. I was in business, by sheer luck, definitely don't belong there, lol. And since the plane was half empty, there was only one woman sitting in the row in front of me with a baby in her arms who couldn't be more than 6 months. As soon as we take off, a man comes up from economy through the closed curtain and starts talking with the woman and fussing over the baby. It becomes apparent that he's the dad. They both talked really loud. They definitely wanted our attention. The man returns to his seat and I see that it's directly behind the curtain, the first row in economy, and he has plenty of space around. So what the hell? Through the next hour, I kid you not, the man keeps coming to see the baby and talk with his wife like every 10 minutes. He interrupts the meal service because he's right in the middle and the steward just can't get through. After too much of these shenanigans, the cabin manager had had enough and told the couple they simply can't do this anymore. And then the charade began. They had it so prepared that it was comical. They'd booked one seat in each class because they were sure that they'd let them be together in business because they have a baby. After all, there are vacant seats left. The steward almost laughed in their faces and told them they could both go to economy and be together for the rest of the flight. The woman lost it. I've paid a lot of money for this ticket to fly business class. I'm not going to economy. Let my husband come here and be with his baby. She sulked for a while, talking loudly about how evil the airline was to her and how she was going to make a complaint. This was entertaining as hell. I wish I flew business more often. In the end, she made a huge fuss about it but retreated to economy, and the last hour of the flight was uneventful. The best part? The baby was a saint through all of this. I could take a 12-hour flight with that little dude as long as his parents stayed home. Yeah, well, their plan didn't really work. If I pay for business and you don't pay for business, surely because we have a baby and we need to be together, they'll put us together in business. I'm sorry that your money-saving hack didn't work. Also not sorry because you were being super entitled. My biological dad finally pays child support after not paying almost my entire life. My mum and I are laughing our asses off. So, I'm 19 female and my mum and biological dad divorced when I was 5. Due to our dad's crappy family court system, my biological dad only had to pay $125 a month in child support, which was a load of BS. He made a lot of money with his tattoo shop, but he spent that money on drugs and women, while my mum had to make cheap casseroles in order to feed me as a baby and my older half-brother who was 14, all while she was a stay-at-home mum. My mum found out about that money when my grandma, who's an accountant, got asked to look into his financial records. When my grandma found what happened to that money and saw how much my mum struggled to give us kids basic living necessities, that made her livid. My grandma begged my mum to leave my biological dad, but she would follow that advice until 5 years later. When the divorce finally happened, the custody battle was an absolute crap show. The judge was a biatch since even my biological dad tested positive for every illegal drug except weed, plus testimonies on how violent and a crappy person he was, and I still had to visit him every other weekend, which stopped when I was 14 after a bunch of abandonment and verbal abuse. I cut contact with him when I was 17. To make things even more crappy, he's only paid when my second stepmom Sherry made him, as she was divorced with kids too and knew that it was important. My first stepmom never really understood what child support was, and after the divorce, my mum struggled hard, from couch surfing until my grandma bought us a house, to using food stamps to feed me, and finally building up her teaching career. We finally live a comfortable life. We aren't wealthy by any means, but we live comfortably. Well, recently, as of last month, my biological dad has suddenly paid $200, and 2 weeks ago he paid another $200 to my mum randomly. The only reason my mum and I think he'd pay now was that maybe he was going to jail again, which says a lot since I'm in college right now. My mum and I are laughing our asses off and even got us a small spa day, since that money is basically nothing right now. Oh well, he only has $9,187 6 to go. Wow, that's so bad. After all this time, they're randomly giving you like $200. The top comment says, co-worker's husband only paid all of his off when he discovered they would not renew his passport and he had a business deal to close. Lo and behold, he suddenly had the money and over 10 grand. And if they were going to jail or something, yeah, why the random couple of $100? Also, by the way, I'm sure it's obvious that I have no idea how this sort of stuff works. How do they get away with not paying stuff like this? Facebook stalks me and then demands his rights. Just needed to vent. No contact with narcissistic father for over 5 years. Got the occasional email and phone call from him, but never answered, and I blocked where I could. During that time, I met and married my husband and had my LO. I have no idea what LO stands for. Little one, maybe? About 6 months ago, after hearing from someone that I was happy and to leave me alone, he decided that he must find me, managed to find my husband's Facebook page as he's friends with a sibling, and found a cover photo of the three of us. Ever since, he's been threatening me to get his rights to his grandchild, and is now filed in court for it because despite having next to zero chance, he can still drag me through the legal system. He thinks he's too smart for a lawyer, so hasn't even bothered to work out that he has no rights, so now I have to upfront to court. Bloody a-hole. At least he's affirming my decision to go no contact and keep my family away from him. Oh, that's so sad. Why are people like this? But yeah, like they said at the end, at least they're affirming their decision to stay away from him. Yeah, these situations are so sad though. My mum thinks she's entitled to alcohol at my wedding. My fiance, 35 male, and I, 33 non-binary, are getting married in 2 weeks in our backyard. We'll be having a catering spread for our reception afterwards. We decided to have a dry wedding for 2 reasons. One, my mum is an alcoholic who's known for making a scene when she gets drunk, and my fiance has a brother who binge drinks and has had alcohol poisoning on more than one occasion. He doesn't drink all the time, but if he starts, he can't stop until he either passes out or someone physically restrains him. I also have an uncle, mum's brother, and a stepdad who are in recovery and don't need the temptation. Neither fiance and I are big drinkers, so we decided to just avoid any problems and just have a dry wedding. We will have a less dry reception party and honeymoon with some of our friends later on. All of our families have been supportive. My uncle was especially grateful to us for doing this, since he takes his recovery very seriously and he's been sober for 7 years. I sent out wedding invitations 4 months ago and said it would be a dry wedding, and I asked people not to bring alcohol. Now today I get this call from my mum, who I also sent an invitation to 4 months ago. Is it true that you're not having alcohol at your wedding? Me, yeah, fiance and I have decided that we don't want alcohol during our special time. Mum, that's so silly, it's gonna make your wedding boring. Me, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but fiance and I have made our decision. We want everyone to feel comfortable at our wedding. Well, clearly you don't care about my comfort. What if I want to have a little drink to pass the time? Me, what, like you did at a different uncle's wedding, where you got so drunk and made a horrible scene calling uncle's wife a gold digger? Mum, it wasn't my fault. They made the drinks there too strong. Wow, blaming the strength of the alcohol for your actions? That's so awful. Me, right, I really wish you would address this need to have alcohol wherever you go. Mum, I don't need to have alcohol. I just think your wedding will be boring without it. You want to have a fun wedding, don't you? It will be a fun wedding. We don't need alcohol to have fun. Mum, this is so stupid. Why should everyone else be punished just to make it comfortable for a few people? It seems like you care more about uncle and stepdad than anyone else. Me, or maybe I just want to avoid any scenes. Mum, I just told you that wasn't my fault. Just like your DUI isn't your fault. Mum, how dare you bring up the difficult time in my life? I was going through a lot emotionally. What the hell is wrong with you kids? You need to mind your own business. If I want to drink, that's my business. Me, well, my wedding is my business and we don't want alcohol there, and that's final. I can't stop you if you decide to pre-game my wedding, but I've already made it clear to my uncle and brothers that if you cause a scene that you're going to be made to leave. Mum starts crying. Why do you kids hate me so much? What did I ever do to deserve to be treated like this by my children? Me, are you really ready to go down that list? Mum, none of you understand. None of you will ever understand. I'm the mother of the bride. I should be treated better than this. Me, I think I've treated you pretty well during this process. I have acquiesced to your boyfriend, whom I don't even know, coming to my wedding. I've even given in to some of your other demands, so please tell me how you've been mistreated. Mum, you didn't invite me to go dress shopping. The mother of the bride always goes dress shopping with her daughter. I barely know your fiance because you never bring him around me. How do I know that you're marrying the right person? Me, that's because my aunt made the dress. Mum sarcastically, well, isn't that just special? Me, sighing, for the rest, I think you know why. You aren't really close enough for you to have any say in who my significant other is. Honestly, Mum, I'm done with this conversation. If you really feel that strongly about this, I'll understand if you don't want to attend my wedding, Mum. Oh, and I bet you'd like that, wouldn't you? One way or another, you'll respect me as your mother. Me? Sure, Mum, I'm hanging up now. Bye. Guys, I'm so livid right now. I've half a mind to uninvite her. I spoke to my dad and my brother. My uncle thinks her drinking is getting really bad again and has been wanting to hold an intervention. I told him I'm focused on the wedding right now, but I definitely agree that this was out of line and something needs to be done. What do? I don't want her ruining my wedding, but I'm so tired of dealing with this. Sorry, this is probably above Reddit's pay grade, but I just wanted to vent. Update, I sent a text reiterating the rules. She said that she knows where she isn't welcome and said she won't attend. My dad told me not to worry about this anymore and that he'll see to it that she doesn't ruin my wedding. Update number 2, I sent this text to my mum. Mother, at this point, I'm going to officially uninvite you from my wedding. I'm not going to allow you to change your mind, and I'd prefer it if you just didn't come to my wedding at all, given your poor behavior. At this point, I've decided I don't want any further contact with you unless you decide to curb your toxic behavior and your drinking. I wish you the best. I hope you can find a way to heal, but I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry if this hurt you, but I can't handle you in my life anymore. If you try to force the issue, I'll be forced to take legal action, up to and including contacting law enforcement. Please don't contact me again. I went to delete her from my Facebook page only to find a post that she'd just written saying how being a mother is a thankless job and how she doesn't understand how she raised rude and judgmental kids. She ended it by saying that she hopes her kids get over themselves someday. I'm done. This sucks, but it's been a long time coming. My head hurts. Oh wow, that's so awful. I'm so sorry that you have to deal with this sort of stuff. But yeah, good on you for sending that message as well. That would have been super hard. You'd love to see them change their ways, but it doesn't really seem like they're going to. And on that note, I feel like that's enough for today, guys. It's wholesome memes time 100%. Oh, the cute little dogs. Oh, that's adorable. Dog-friendly gate. The nose hole and the 2 little eye holes. That's so thoughtful and smart. You know what? I feel bad for my dogs. They should be able to see through the gate. That's so cute. Googling pigeon sitting. A timeless favorite of mine. Oh my god, I've never seen that in my life. That's so cute. As if they sit with their feet forwards like that. That's so funny. They sit like adorable little bird-human hybrids or something. Thank you for sharing this. You're cute. Oh, you are too. And they're both blushing. Oh, it's so nice to read a Wah Wah Wee Wah comic again. I've been missing them. Your future needs you, but your past doesn't. Wow, that's so true. And like this comment says, your present needs you. No reason worrying about the past or future. That just ruins the moment that you're in. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I've been actively trying to do this for a while now, and it's super hard. Like, try to be more present. Even with stuff like this YouTube channel, I find myself being like super excited about the future of it and stuff. But it's like, wait a second, it's going amazing right now, you know? Enjoy this moment right now. What do they say? You gotta stop and smell the roses? 100%. And once again, thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if you did, you know what to do. Make sure you like and subscribe, all that fun stuff. And the comment of the day goes to Katie Dunson5400. I love how you tear the world down with horrific stories, but you make sure to build us back up with wholesomeness. Have an amazing day, peeps. First of all, thank you for watching the videos. That means so much to me. And yeah, after the horrifying stuff that we read, we need to read wholesome stuff. I feel like if we read stuff that made us angry or sad or something, and then we just ended the video, that would be so wrong, I feel like. All of us, as in you guys and me, we need to be feeling good after the episode, not bad. So yeah, I feel like it's kind of a necessity. And yeah, guys, thank you for joining me for these adventures. It means so much. There's about to be an Entitled Parents compilation playing, so stick around if you want to watch that. And as always, make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say because I say it every single day. Bye! Parents putting their kids on our motorcycle to take pictures without consent. My husband and I live in a region with a lot of tourism and we own a rare motorcycle. It's a very valuable old-timer that my husband spent a fortune for to restore. We're living in the countryside, but when we're going on day trips, it happens that we park our bike in more busy places when taking a break for lunch or coffee. I understand that the motorcycle draws attention and that some people want to snap pictures of it, but we increasingly have to deal with parents who randomly put their kids on it. Last weekend we stopped a couple who was just about to do it and they gave us the usual excuse. Oh, we would have asked, but you know, nobody was around. Like, not being around makes our bike public property. Minutes later, after ordering food, we caught another couple swinging their kid's bum onto the seat. This time it wasn't just a toddler, but at least a 6-year-old boy. We received a lot of feedback also from not entitled parents to call the police or make a big scene, but frankly it's become so frequent that we just decided to avoid such places. We grew tired of of seeing toddlers kicking the tank or mothers pulling the zippers of their handbags along it by hauling their offspring up and down. 10 years ago, this rarely ever happened. We can tell that the entitlement intensifies. Oh yeah, it's so frustrating. You see it all the time with super nice cars. Like on the I'm the main character subreddit when people were just literally sitting on them. And yeah, like this situation as well. Like the fact that people think they can just do stuff like this without asking. So not okay. Stepmom tried to kidnap me and my sister for Christmas. This happened in 2009 when I was 15 and my sister was 11. I honestly don't really remember it well. I had to call my mum to fill in some details and it helped a little. My parents got divorced when I was 10. My mother got primary custody, but we stayed with my father for about 3 days a week, sometimes more. They took turns celebrating the holidays with us. We'd spend them with one parent a year and with the other one the next year. In March 2009, my father and his then girlfriend Molly broke up after he confessed to cheating with the woman that eventually became the stepmom. Years later, I found out that affair had been going on for almost 2 years by the time he told Molly. He introduced stepmom to us in May, on my birthday actually, and they almost immediately announced their engagement. From that moment, she started trying to force us all to be a happy blended family, which usually meant forcing us to do everything that she, or sometimes my stepbrother, wanted, and pretending that my mum wasn't in the picture. Stepmom and my dad started pushing her to leave us with them a lot more often than my parents had previously agreed, but she thankfully wouldn't budge. We started getting ready for the holidays in November, and stepmom started talking about a ski resort, hotel maybe, I don't know, it was like 14 years ago, that she wanted to visit with us. It was a 3-hour drive from where we live, and it was obviously more suited for couples, younger children, or the elderly. Neither me or my sister actually wanted to go, but before we could say that, stepmom asked us when we'd be done with school so that she could book it for a 2-week trip during our winter break. I was happy to be the one to break it to her. We'd spent Christmas and New Year's with my father and Molly the year before, so it was my mum's turn to have us. My father and stepmom called my mum dozens of times trying to convince her to let them take us, insisting that the stepmom was excited to spend Christmas with us and that the previous year's holidays didn't count because we'd spend them with Molly. My mum said no, as she'd already made plans, and the subject was dropped for a few weeks. Then on our last day of school before winter break, stepmom picked me and my sister up from our schools. That was fine. We were supposed to spend a couple of days with my father before the holidays. What wasn't fine was that the moment we got into her car, stepmom said, "We're going to the ski resort. Surprise!" She proceeded to tell us that they'd already packed our bags for us and dad was going to meet us there. I asked if my mum knew about this and she said sure, but I knew that was a lie. I also didn't believe her when she said that we'd only be there for a couple of days and be back before Christmas. I figured that they'd booked the 2-week stay that they wanted and would probably guilt trip us into both staying once their couple of days were up. I was terrified. I didn't have my phone. My mum thought I was still too young to have one. I didn't trust stepmom and I could see my sister was even more scared. I told stepmom that we didn't want to go and she said, "Fine, let's just pick up stepbrother from the school." We picked him up from the school and stepmom said, "Okay, now let's go to the resort." I said again that we didn't want to go. She said, "Fine, let's find a gas station and fill up." That pattern repeated itself about 6 times over the next hour. Every time I said we didn't want to go, stepmom would make up an excuse and then pretend to forget my plea. As we were about to leave town, my dad called stepmom. I heard them fight for a few minutes about something and then she hung up. Stepbrother asked her what happened, but she didn't answer. Then she said, "I'm taking you kids to your mum's." She turned the car around and she took us home. When we got there, my mum pulled us out of the car and screamed at stepmom to leave, which she did. My mum was hugging us and bawling like she hadn't seen us in years. She didn't tell me the full story until a few days later, but my mum called my dad in panic because he'd never told her that we'd gotten home, which he always did whenever he picked us up from school. He was hoping that she wouldn't call until we were already at the resort. My father knew that lying would do more harm than good, so he told her their plans. He tried to spin it around to something that my sister wanted, but my mum didn't buy it. She told him that if stepmom didn't take us back to her place, that she'd call the police. My father and stepmom took my stepbrother to the resort for a few months after. They bragged about all the fun they had and all the things that me and my sister missed. Stepbrother later confided in me that he actually hated it. He barely saw his mum while they were there, and he spent Christmas pretty much alone in their room. Stepmom called us both selfish for trying to ruin their holidays. My sister actually felt guilty for a while and I had to reassure her. My mum didn't call the cops or press charges. At the time, she didn't know if what stepmom did would qualify as a crime or if that actually helped. She also feared that that would ruin our relationship with my father, with whom she was still trying to stay on amicable terms. Years later, she told me that she regretted not calling anybody, and that's the story of how I got my first phone. For some reason, I really hate this story so much that I avoid talking talking about it. This text was actually on my drafts for almost a week. It's far from the worst thing that stepmom has ever done, but it still pisses me off. I admit that writing it all down did help a little though. Yeah, how are you selfish because you didn't want to go on this trip? Yeah, that is scary and super infuriating as well. Sorry that this happened. Entitled parents moved my stuff at the beach and got ticketed for theft. Hi, old story that happened to me yesterday. I'm on vacation at a touristy beach spot. Went out mid-morning to the beach before the crowds and I set up my towel, umbrella, chair, cooler, etc. Around 11 a.m. while lying on my towel tanning with headphones in, I get a tap on my shoulder. I open my eyes to a middle-aged woman standing over me, and her family and young kids started setting up multiple umbrellas, chairs, and toys about 10 feet behind me. When I took my headphones out, the woman proceeds to tell me that my bathing suit is inappropriate to be around her children, and so I'm gonna need to move. The bathing suit is a cheeky bikini bottom, but not a thong. I tell her I was there first and they can find somewhere else to set up if it offends her. She proceeds to say there's no other close spots to the water. I tell her I'm not moving and I put my headphones back in. About an hour later, I decide to hop in the water for a dip to cool off. While in the water, I look at the shoreline and the woman has packed up my stuff with her husband and is carrying it away from the area. I hop out of the water and I get a lifeguard to call beach security while I watch them walking my stuff up the beach. The beach security and myself approach them. They try to play dumb and say it's their stuff. So if they're asked to open the wallet to show ID, surprise, it's my ID. Cops are then called and I chose to press charges for theft. And I got my spot back since the family was escorted and kicked off the beach. And fair enough as well, you can't do stuff like this. Like, oh, what's that? You're not gonna move on the beach? Well, I'm gonna steal all of your stuff, okay? You can't just do stuff like that. Another entitled aeroplane mum. A few weeks ago, I was flying back from Denver from Atlanta. I used a cheap airline and on the flight to Atlanta, I was stuck in the middle seat and got a little claustrophobic. No problem, I got what I paid for. To avoid this, I paid extra to choose my seat on the way back and I chose the window. I get on the plane, I walk to my seat and I notice a lady and her child in my aisle. The lady is in the middle and the child, maybe 3 or 4, is in my seat. I didn't board late, I was one of the early group, so she just preemptively took the window. You have to pay extra for that. I walked up and very politely tell her it's my seat. I never, not once, raised my voice or lost my temper. Me, that's my seat. Entitled mum, very incredulous. Can't believe I have the nerve to make her move. Are you serious? Me, yes, completely. Entitled mum, you don't have to be such a biatch. Oh my god, what? Me, thinking that escalated quickly. Ma'am, I haven't been a biatch at all. Not yet. Entitled mum, I'm not sitting next to you if you're a biatch. Me, okay. Then if there are empty seats, you should move if you don't want to sit next to me. That's my seat. She then stands up and yells for the flight attendant because she isn't sitting next to a stupid biatch. The poor flight attendant comes over and gives me an embarrassed look and tells her that she needs to sit down in the correct seat and wait to see if there are any no-shows. Entitled mum then proceeds to tell everyone around what a biatch I am, earning more embarrassed looks from other passengers. At the end of the day, I got my seat, I wasn't claustrophobic, and she looked like an ass. But what's the deal with parents like this? I have 3 boys and I would never ever expect people to give up seats for us, especially not ones that they paid extra for. Yeah, I have no idea. So unbelievably entitled and just angry as well. They're like, oh, what's that? I can create some drama. Okay, so ridiculous. Neighbor's child joins gathering and he's not invited. Backstory, there's a child in my apartment complex who's allowed to run wild. He's extremely disrespectful to adults. Recently ruined my mummy and me event taking my autistic son to get ice cream because he wanted the $10 ice cream and decided to pout until his mother offered to pay for what he wanted. He rides his bike aggressively towards my children who are 2, 5 and 10, literally having to brake so he doesn't hit my child. And worse, my kids always fall off their bikes due to this behavior. The mum doesn't reprimand said child and believes that no one should say anything to said child. Nah. What do you mean? Whenever my adult friend and I are outside hanging out, here comes said kid. I've spoken to the parent about him not being in adults' faces, etc. And he continues, I literally have to shut my window to have a conversation with my children because he sits outside listening by my window instead of being upstairs on the deck his mummy pays for. Today it's Memorial Day, my family and I are grilling and hanging out, and he comes to participate in my gathering, asking for food, involving himself with guests, etc, etc. Am I the a-hole for telling him to go upstairs with his own family? Oh, hell no. Not even a little bit. And if the parents think that this is okay, that's bloody awful. Entitled mum mum thinks what's mine is now hers, and I'm a complete stranger. This may be a bit long, so I apologize. I sat down on the train, a little girl sits next to me and her Karen mum sits across. About 10 minutes after train moves, I start playing on my Nintendo Switch. Little girl sees it and asked if she can play. I said yes, but asked mum. Mum says yes, so I let her play. I also ask him what stop they're getting off at because I'm getting off a few stops before the end of the line. After about an hour, I'm coming very close to the station. I said, sorry sweetie, I'm getting off here, and the little girl hands the Switch back to me with a big smile and an even bigger thank you. It's been nice and quiet for an hour, and it was fantastic seeing this happiness on the little girl's face. And then it all went downhill. Enter the Karen. Karen then says that my daughter is having so much fun with the Switch she can't keep playing. I said, no, sorry, I'm getting off at the next stop. Oh my god, the girl isn't even bothered. They're happy and grateful about it, but the mum is like, no, let's make this into a problem. Karen goes nuclear and shouts out, my daughter is having more fun with it than you. What's a grown man doing playing with a child's toy? Just give it to her. I said I have given it to her for the past hour to play with while you've been playing on your phone. Karen screams, if you gave it to her, then it's hers and not yours. What the hell? I asked her if she'd even heard of the concept of borrowing something, and I saw my stop coming. Without further ado, I pick up my bag with the Switch packed nicely away. I then said to the little girl, you seem like a very nice, well-behaved little girl. Please don't turn out like your mum. I walked off the train after getting the last word in, and then breathed that sweet air of freedom, and then met mates at the pub where I told this story. I didn't know the whole pub was listening until everyone roared with laughter, and the barman gave us a free pint of Guinness. Lovely. This is in England, and until today, I thought those Karen beasts existed only in America. Oh my god, yeah, they always make issues out of nothing. Like the little girl in this situation sounds like they were super happy and super grateful, and they were so happy to play the Switch for like an hour, and instead of being something positive, the mum just ruins it for no reason. Entitled mum wants me to watch her kid while she goes grocery shopping. I work at a grocery store part-time over the summer, and recently had a middle-aged woman and a very hyper 4-year-old girl walk into the store. She spots me and walks over to the customer service desk, which I happen to reside by. I didn't notice her at first, so she decided to snap in my face. I was surprised, but I put on my nice face and I asked her what she needed help with. She says in a high-pitched mother voice, hi, my little angel here gets quite excited when we go grocery shopping. Do you mind watching her for a bit? She asked. I was surprised at this because no one has ever asked me this before. I replied with, no, I'm sorry, but I can't fulfill this duty as it's not my job. I'm happy to help with anything else. And she looks at me and says, well, it is your job. You work here. I nod and explain to her what my job includes and how babysitting isn't any of that. She gets angry with me and asks for a manager. I find my manager and he tries super hard not to laugh. He explains that I can't fulfill what she wants me to do. She then says, well, you've lost a customer, and then storms away. Honestly, it made my day. Yeah, the second that you said that you couldn't do that, they should have been like, oh, okay, no worries. Not get angry for no reason. I'm seeing a real pattern between these. They all get so angry for no reason. Entitled mum tries to force me to leave the park because she's convinced that my little sister is my daughter. There's a 10.5-year age gap between me and my little sister. When I was a teen, I often used to take her to the local park to give my mum a break or to give her time to get some housework done, etc. At the time this story happened, I was 15. It was Wimbledon season, so my mum asked me to take my sister to the park for a few hours so she could watch it in peace. She gave me some money so we could get some fish and chips in town and some ice cream at the park. There was usually an ice cream van there. So we get some fish and chips and we went to the beach for a bit to buy mum some extra time. And then we headed to the park. As we approached the park gate, this entitled mum who was dragging along her child glared at me. Entitled mum, you should be ashamed. I looked around, but there was nobody else that she could have been talking to. Dumbfounded, I blankly pointed to myself as to affirm that she was talking to me. Girls these days are such S-words, opening their legs to anyone. Who got you knocked up? Oh, let me guess, you don't know? No. They're assuming that it's your daughter and calling you an S-word. I stared blankly at her for a minute. Me, this is my little sister. Entitled mum rolled her eyes and leered at me. Yeah, we had little sisters in my day too. What? Oh my god. I just said, okay, bye, and I walked away because I was uncomfortable with conflict and just wanted out of that situation. Yeah, and this person is awful. Entitled mum, don't you dare go into the park. You'll spread your filthy diseases all over the park. I don't want my son catching your diseases. Oh no. I ignored her and I rushed into the park. Surely she'd leave me alone if I was surrounded by other kids and parents. Right? Wrong. Entitled mum followed me around the park demanding that I leave. This doesn't even make any sense. How awful. The more I ignored her, the madder she got, and she kept repeating over and over, get out, you're not allowed here. At this point, a few parents noticed. One mum, let's call her FM, friend mum, who my mum and I often chatted with, immediately stood and rushed over. Just as entitled mum grabbed my arm and yanked at me. Why are you grabbing a child? Let her go. Who are you? Mind your own freaking business. No, let her go or I'm calling the police. Entitled mum let me go, but turned her anger towards friend mum, shouting that she was just making the park safe for her child. Oh, how dare you? And I shouldn't be here because I might spread some nasty disease all over the place. She never specified what disease. I'm guessing she meant an STI or something. More parents started coming over to see what was going on. Seeing that she was outnumbered, entitled mum eventually left, dragging her child behind her, screaming obscenities at us as she slinked away. Friend mum gave us a lift home to make sure that we were safe. When I told my mum what happened, she was furious. She packed us into the car and drove us around town looking for this woman, but we didn't spot her. Thankfully, I never saw the woman again. Oh no, that's so awful. They were saying this to children that they didn't know and making some super wild assumption. How awful. Yeah, we need to read something wholesome, guys. I put vegetables in all of my food so my roommate's kids won't eat them. The mum is upset in capital letters. I posted this in another forum, but I received a lot of comments telling me to post it here as well. I, 26 female, live in a rented house with a single mother, 30 female, and her son, 6 male. I had another person living with me, but they moved out and the mother moved in. I don't mind living with her and her kid, it's fine, and we kind of do our own thing. I spend a lot of time at my boyfriend's place or working. Our work schedules collide, so we really don't interact much, but when we do, it's totally fine. No issues there. I want to start with saying that she clearly struggles financially, but I don't think it's an excuse. I don't make lots of money either. However, I've noticed that my food would go missing or portions would be taken from it. I assumed it was her kid, so I asked her if she'd stop him from eating my food. I was calm about it and she just said that she would. It didn't really upset me when it first started. It started getting annoying when I'd get home from work and expect to have a meal's worth of leftovers in the fridge, only to see it pick through or just gone. I kept bringing it up and she started getting annoyed with me bringing it up, and just from observing them I realized that neither of them eat vegetables, and judging by the food that will get picked through and the food that would be untouched, anything with green in it was avoided. Orange chicken would be gone, but chicken and broccoli would be untouched, so I started putting vegetables in everything. I find them delicious, and anything that's green or not a potato does not get eaten, so I could mix some bell peppers into the food and it would be fine. I make a big portion of vegetables pretty frequently anyway, so I just started putting it in everything that I eat. If I had leftover mashed potatoes, I'd pour green beans in and mix it up. If I had leftover cheesy bacon fries, I'd pour broccoli all over it and mix it in. Usually my homemade stuff has vegetables in it, but I started making sure that everything did. I made a pot of mac and cheese, the kids' favorite thing, and I poured in roasted Brussels sprouts, which is actually delicious to me, and I'm eating more vegetables, so it's a win-win. She had been seeming annoyed, but we were all at home when I made the pot of mac and cheese. She was in the living room and saw me get out the Brussels sprouts and was like, "What are you gonna do with that?" And I poured them in. She said I was being greedy and annoying. How dare you? I just said I like Brussels sprouts and that was it. She said we need food, and I told her to go get some. Or stop buying only pre-packaged things and your money will go further. I think she sees this as some big act of revenge, but I just simply want to be able to eat my food. I also want to add that the sharing is not the issue. It's expecting to have food there and it's not. So often I'd be working a long day and I'll get home to have a meal's worth of food and it's all gone. Or I wake up in a rush and I had my food ready to eat in the morning only to find it gone. So now I have to skip breakfast. If she would simply text sometimes, "Hey, is it okay if I eat so and so?" I would know, and I would know to make other plans. I'd stop for food or know that I have to whip something up when I get home. Also, I think eating the last of someone's food is crazy and rude. If somebody makes a big pot of something and you ask for a serving, sure. But if somebody made something and there's one serving left and you eat it without permission, that's evil as hell. Yeah, 1000%. And who are they to expect it? Like, why is there an expectation that you're gonna just make them food? Nah, that's not your job. job. And yeah, they're not even grateful for it. They just sort of expect it, which is even more frustrating. The ex-mother-in-law strikes again. My former boyfriend and I broke up because of his mother, and I haven't heard from him for a couple of months, thank God. His mother came to my door demanding that I take him back as he's blaming her for breaking us up, and that he barely talks to her nowadays. Wow, okay, because what? That's your fault? She demanded I take him back as she wants him to start talking to her again? Wow. Yeah, how about you fix the relationship? I bursted out laughing in her face for about 4 minutes and I couldn't stop, which made her even more angry. I shut the door in her face and got ready to go to work. This woman followed me to work and again demanded that I take her son back, and I just continued laughing in her face. In the end, I told her to F off and that she made her bed and she can rot in it. She looked stunned as I usually don't talk back to her because, you know, I don't want to upset my ex. I told her if she continued to harass me, I would go to the police. She did seem to back off after that. Good riddance. Yeah, where they said she made her bed and she can rot in it. It sounds like that's a pretty fair statement. Like what? They expect if you get back together with your former boyfriend, that's going to make their relationship with them better or something? Or that'll make all the issues disappear? Yeah, nah, that's not how that works. Doesn't really sound like it's this person's fault. And yeah, they don't have to do anything. Every year I host a neighborhood party for the 4th of July. Everyone is welcome unless they decide to be an a-hole. I live in a pretty poor area. I'm the only one that has a pool. And I bought the property next door and I knocked the house down, so I have a double-sized plot. I'm not saying any of this to brag, just explaining background information. Plenty of room to party. The party went pretty well. People started showing up around 1 p.m. We played in the pool. We chased my dogs around the yard. We ate some barbecue and we had some beers. The teenagers went off to take a walk, probably smoked some pot right before sunset. So it was just adults and small children around when I started my fireworks show. Every year I spend $2,000 to $3,000 on fireworks. I only set them off between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. on the 4th. I'm not one of those folks setting off fireworks for a week before or after the holiday. One rule I have is that I'm the only person who's allowed to light fireworks on my land. If anyone is getting rushed to the ER missing some fingers, it's not going to be one of my guests, it's going to be me. So I set off my first 3 rounds of mortars, 28 total fireworks, and as I'm getting set up for the 4th round, 22 fireworks, a woman who I've never met approaches me. She's apparently my 4th neighbor to the west sister, but I had no idea who she was at the time. My daughter is really enjoying the show, but she wants to light one instead of just watching. Me, sorry, but I don't let anyone light fireworks on my property but me. This isn't exactly safe and I don't want to get sued. Oh, sugar, it's okay, she'll be fine. Look how sad she is. At this moment, she points at a smiling girl who's clearly no older than 7. I'm sorry, but even if she were 21, I wouldn't let her do it. There's no way I'm letting a child risk their fingers. You just want to hog all of the fun for yourself. You've set enough of them off. Time for La Dondre to have a turn. Stop being selfish. Me, ma'am, you and your daughter have been enjoying my food, my pool, and my yard for the past 8 hours for free, and you're calling me selfish because I care about your child's safety? But she wants to light one. Yeah, and that's not gonna happen, and if you continue to push the issue, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. Now, kindly step back so I can continue the show. We've been arguing this whole time and people want to see fireworks, not arguments. Just sit back and enjoy the holiday. And at that point, she went over to her daughter, grabbed her by her arm and went back to her brother's house. I feel bad for the kid. She missed the rest of the show and she missed the homemade ice cream cake that I bring out at the end of the party. Her brother and his kids stayed at the party and had a great time. I hope the little girl was at least able to watch the show from the window of their own yard or something. Yeah, wow, the fact that they don't realize that you're trying to be safe and what they want their young kid to light it? Nah. And yeah, also so ungrateful. Like they said, you've been enjoying my food, my pool, and my yard for the past 8 hours for free, and you're calling me selfish because I care about your child's safety? And yeah, for real, what if something did happen? Guaranteed they'd be furious. And the fact that they're upset about this and they don't understand is so frustrating. I, male 31, asked my father-in-law, male 60, to start contributing to the household expenses again after I found out that my wife, female 31, had not told me that he'd stopped financially contributing. Now he's looking at moving out and possibly being homeless. Did I do the right thing? Any advice you can give? My male 31 father-in-law, male 60, has lived with the family, me, my wife 31, and 2 children 4 and 2 for about 3 years without making any regular contributions towards the household. He occasionally helps with the groceries here and there, paid for a moving truck hire 3 months ago, $500, and some shelving about 2 years ago that was $600. The issue is we've had to move into into a larger house to accommodate him and our living arrangements. This leaves us having to pay $5.50 a week in rent. He gets his own room, toilet, while my family has to share the one small ensuite bathroom. All the while, we're living beyond our means and our savings are declining. We were hoping 2 years ago that he would start contributing, but he hasn't. 6 months ago, I offered to start paying $150 a week, and this became an agreement with me chasing him up. My wife took over the household finances. In this time, I found out that he'd stopped paying and become furious with my wife. I told her that both she and her father broke my trust, with him stopping to contribute and not saying anything, and with her not saying anything while watching our savings dwindle. I knew it was a delicate matter, so I calmly and quietly asked him why he'd stopped contributing to the rent. He mentioned that as a handyman, he had a slow turnover of getting paid. I then asked him if he was able to start contributing $150 to the household in 2 weeks. He agreed. Since then, he's completely stopped talking to me. He approached my wife and said that he would have to either start contributing $150 or I would be turfing him onto the street. I know that he doesn't make much as a handyman, but we already have 2 children to support, and I can't support 3 dependents. I feel like even a teenager could make $150 a week, but he feels too prideful to work for somebody else, and he can't get welfare because he was doing cash in hand jobs for 30 years and hasn't filed his taxes. Sadly, my wife is really upset. She feels obligated to her dad and loves having him around, but knows that we can't afford to financially support him. Did I do the right thing? Am I in the wrong? What advice can you give? Oh no, of course you're not in the wrong. Like, what do they really expect? That you guys can just support them for the rest of their life? No way! And you shouldn't feel like you have to do that, because that's ridiculous. They've probably just been enjoying it while it lasted, because there's no way they could actually expect this. There's no way that in their mind, they expect you two to support them for the rest of their life. Entitled Mum wants my zoo membership. I love my local zoo. It's a favorite place for me to walk. A few years ago, I got a membership. A perk of that is getting in earlier than the general public. I take advantage of that because it's less crowded. One day I was at the zoo for the earlier member hour. I was in line behind some lady and her kids. She approached the ticket counter. The employee there asked for her member card. Entitled Mum, I don't have one, but I'd like 3 tickets. Ticket employee, I'm sorry, but right now it's member only entry. We open in 30 minutes for general admission. Entitled Mum, that's not fair. My kids have been looking forward to this, and I saw on your website that you're open right now. Ticket employee, again, it's only for members right now. It even says that on the website. Ticket employee 2, hey, OP, you're all set. Have a great day. I go a lot, so they know me very well. I tell them to have a great day too, and I go in. I think about 40 minutes later, I was walking around when I felt a tap on my shoulder. Turning around, I see the same lady. Entitled Mum, hi, I heard you have a membership. I want it. Me, surprised, I'm sorry, but I'm not giving you my membership. Entitled Mum, come on, it's not fair. My kids will love it here. Besides, this place is for kids. Yeah, she said that. Me, still no, my membership has 1 member and 1 guest admission on it. You couldn't even get both of your kids in. Entitled Mum, well, change it. Sorry, but no, I'm not changing my membership so you can use it. I walked away. A little bit later, a security guard stopped me. Hi, I got a complaint that you stole someone's membership card. Me laughing, no. Hands him my card and my ID. Here's my membership card and my driver's license to prove it. They shake their head. You're all good. Have a great day. So weird. Yeah, what? You're just meant to give them your membership? It's not fair. My kids want to go here all the time, so you should give me your membership. And not only that, you should change your membership so that it suits me better. The absolute audacity. Not buying a handheld game for her kids after was told not. I received a gift card from work for a pop-up store that opens Thanksgiving week to the day after New Year's. I saw some handheld games for cheap with the 150 games built in, so I called several family members asking if it's a good gift for their children. All said yes, except one aunt who said it was too cheap for her kids and not to bother her about it because she's buying them the most expensive kind. Christmas came around and all the kids loved theirs. I even bought some for the adults in my family who have special needs. We have a device where we can engrave names on everyone's game. The aunt demanded why I didn't get a game for her kids. I reminded her of what she said. I was told that I lied. I gave my phone to another family member and asked to read the text message she sent, calling the game cheap and how she was planning on buying her kids a better game system. She didn't buy her kids a game system because they're expensive. She demanded that we take the games from the adults with special needs because they're adults and they don't need a game. Her kids are shocked and they're telling their mother to calm down. She demanded why I didn't tell her that it had that many games on it. I said no, we bought around gifts for her kids. She left, but kids and husband wanted to stay. So when she left, I gave kids the same game like everyone else. The next day she called me upset because she had eaten a sandwich and chips for Christmas dinner. My response was that no one told you to leave, you just left on your own. Haven't had a problem with her since Christmas. Yeah, like the top comment says, you buying them the game anyway and pretending that you didn't until she left in a huff. That was so great. This belongs on Petty Revenge as well. Yeah, why didn't you buy it? Even though I already told you not to because I was going to buy a better, more expensive one. And then to make a scene about it and leave. My in-laws are suing me for part ownership in my company. This is just happening. It started today. I was served with papers. My husband and I, both male, had issues with them a while back that resulted in us going no contact. I've had my restaurant since I was in my 20s, long before my husband was ever in my life. My in-laws felt that after we got married, it became a family business and they were entitled to ownership. My husband and I have a prenup and postnup that states my husband and his family have no stake in the business, and I'm sole owner, and they know this and have known this. This issue caused us to go no contact with his family because of their entitled greed. My husband is beyond pissed, and my lawyer is assuring me that they will lose. For some reason, I'm laughing about it. Just one more headache I didn't need. Wow, so after you become married, it's a family business? What's that? You've gotten married? Well, that must mean I'm entitled to everything that you have. Like, yeah, this is super entitled, but it's also delusional. Entitled mum thinks the family bathroom is only for her and her baby. Yesterday, I, 37 female, got off a plane in the US and rushed to the airport bathroom. I have radiation colitis from cancer treatment, and I'm prone to diarrhea and incontinence. I had a small accident while deplaning, but I was trying to hold the rest until I got to the bathroom. Not the first time this has happened, and I carry clean clothes and wipes with me whenever I travel. Anyway, I noticed a long line at the women's bathroom, and I saw that the family care bathroom was vacant, and no one around looking to use it, so I stepped inside. I hear screaming behind me, but I ignore it because it's a busy airport and I thought nothing of it. As I'm closing the door behind me, a woman carrying a baby literally puts her hand and body between the door, and it opens the door, and the following interaction occurs. Angry entitled mum, excuse me, this is a family restroom, this is not for you. Me trying to hold in the rest of my, you know what, sorry, you'll have to wait. Entitled mum, we need to use it. Not that it's any of your business, but I have a disability. Entitled mum, what disability? She's still preventing me from closing the door with her body and hands while holding a baby, mind you, and literally would not let go, still screaming, what disability? She still held on. I overpowered her and I pushed her back with the door and then pulled the door closed. Screw her, you don't have a monopoly on family restrooms, which needs a completely different title altogether in my opinion, and you don't get to harass a literal cancer patient because you chose to reproduce. I hope she and her baby crapped their pants like I did. Okay, that was a beautiful sentence to end that on, and yeah, what the hell? So unbelievably rude. I don't know how people are like this. Like what, do you think the world revolves around you or something? No. A random woman insulted me for not agreeing to watch her child. So I, 26 female, was sat on a bench finishing my lunch break when a random woman came and sat next to me. She has a toddler in a stroller. I'm getting up to walk away and she says, excuse me, could you just watch my child for 2 minutes? Only while I pop into the shop. It's really hard to get the buggy in there. I felt bad, but sympathetically I said, sorry, I'm just going back to work, but this is a fairly safe area. Maybe you can keep the buggy outside and bring the kid in. The shopkeeper would keep an eye on the buggy through the window. She looked at me and says in a really mean tone, but you only work just next door. I can tell from your lanyard. It only takes a couple of minutes. So I just said sorry and I went to walk away as I'm literally 2 minutes towards the end of my break when she said, you probably would have upset him anyway with the state of you. I didn't even respond and I carried on walking, but it made me feel like crap. And on top of this, I would have genuinely not minded helping if it wasn't for the fact that I, A, would have had someone breathing down my neck for being laid off break, and B, I know the shopkeeper and the area well, and I've seen countless people leave pushchairs, mobility scooters, etc. outside. Yeah, wow, how rude to say that. Oh, you probably would have upset him anyway with the state of you. What do you mean? You're the one who's upset. My parents are offended that I didn't share my college essay with them and never congratulate me on my acceptance. I was accepted into college, and my dad, who's never finished high school, and stepmom, who dropped out of college, tells me I wasn't. So throughout the whole process of applying to schools, there was this specific college they wanted me to apply for, which wasn't an issue. I applied, I had my senior advisor send my transcripts, and I turned in the essay. After this process was complete, I told my parents that my application was complete. My dad then asked to see my essay. I told him that I prefer not to share it and that I didn't have a copy of it anyway because I copied and pasted it into the school's website, and that was that. At first he made it seemed like it wasn't an issue until his wife, stepmom, heard, and now they're genuinely offended. They then go on a rant about how I'm weird because I won't let them see what I wrote, and it all went downhill from here. They start accusing me of never actually submitting an application because they wanted to see the essay. So I show them a screenshot of the website saying that all the requirements, essay, and transcripts were received, and this still wasn't good enough. Sometime later, I received several crazy and erratic text messages in all capital letters from my stepmom saying that she spoke with the admissions counselor and I lied about applying and they don't even know who I am. But when I asked her who she spoke with, she never gave me an answer. I was ridiculed and called a liar for days without any proof. So sometime later, while going through my email, I see a letter from the school stating my acceptance. So I show my dad first and he's happy. But then when I confront my stepmom and ask can she tell me who she spoke to, who stated that I never submitted my application, she goes crazy. She tells me to my face that what I was reading wasn't an acceptance letter. Wow. And then my dad starts agreeing with her. At this point, I think they're crazy. They told me because it stated, congratulations, we are pleased to offer you admission, instead of you have been accepted, that it wasn't an acceptance. I didn't even receive a congratulations from them. It's like they wanted me to fail. All I wanted was an apology and a congrats. So I'm talking to them and they keep going back to the essay, the one that they never saw. Well, where's the bloody essay? No apology for calling me a liar and literally tormenting me. Instead, they deny the truth that's in front of their face because they can never be wrong. Oh, and the reason they're so pressed about knowing what the essay said is because they're afraid it's about them. Boy, does that guilty conscience speak. When they finally admit that I was accepted, I ask them for an apology and they simply tell me, so what, get thicker skin? I can no longer deal with them. It's gonna kill me. Thank you all for the congratulations. It really does mean so much. Who knew that strangers could give you more support than your own family? Wow, that's so awful. And yeah, congratulations on this. But yeah, that's so sad. Like the top comment says, just don't inform them or include them in anything anymore. You're going to college, you're an adult. Just take care of your own business and keep them out of the loop. They honestly sound like idiots. Yeah, that really sucks. Like so sad, so self-centered. Yeah, sorry about that. Entitled parents leave child at church for free babysitting. I read another story recently that reminded me of this incident, which took place in the early 2000s. I was working in a large church, 2,000 plus members, and on Sundays I ran the audio and the video booth. We had 3 services, a 7 a.m. early service, the main service at 10 a.m, and a late service at 11:30 a.m. Each service ran for about an hour and 15 minutes. One Sunday during the 10 a.m. service, the pastor's wife went into labor 3 weeks early. The pastor left in the middle of his sermon and the youth pastor took over. The youth pastor did a great job of taking over and wishing the mother and the baby well, and that service wrapped up early. We had a quick meeting to decide what to do about the 11:30 service, and the youth pastor volunteered to give a sermon that he prepared for the youth group later in the week. It was his first time giving a sermon in front of that many people up on a big stage. He was nervous and rolled through it pretty fast, then forgot about the closing song, so church ended at 12:15 instead of the normal 12:45. Everyone had left the church by about 12:30. I shut down all the equipment and I turned out the lights and went down the hall to make sure that the lights were out in the classrooms like I normally did. One light was on and I found Kay, another church employee who worked in the nursery on Sundays. She was sitting in a rocking chair rocking a toddler and I saw tears rolling down Kay's face. I asked her what was wrong and she could hardly even speak. She was so upset. She said the toddler's parents had dropped him off before the early service and they never came back. The poor baby had been there for almost 5 hours. The parents had not given a contact number. All Kay knew was the child's first name. I immediately called the youth pastor, who quickly turned around and came back to the church. The child was very out of sorts, either hungry or tired. We had snacks but no food and there wasn't really a place to put a kid down for a nap. I ran to get some chicken nuggets while they figured out what to do. When I got back, a couple had pulled in right in front of me. They asked where everyone was and I said that church ended early. They said, okay, we're just here to pick up our son. I wasn't about to get involved with the drama, so I just unlocked the door and let them in. The youth pastor was livid and lit into him. It turns out the parents wanted some alone time and they'd been dropping their kid off at church and then leaving to go and do stuff. And they'd been doing this for weeks, just dropping him around at 7:45 a.m. and coming to pick him up around 12:45 p.m. Here's the part where the parents are really entitled. They got mad at the youth pastor for ending church early. They yelled at him for endangering their child and even threatened to sue. The dad was up in the youth pastor's face and I thought they might fight, but the youth pastor was a big dude and I think that kept the dad from doing anything else. I didn't stay in there. I went into the next room with Kay and the child and I gave him the nuggets, which he gulped down. The parents finally took the kid and left. The youth pastor and his wife took us to lunch because we, mostly Kay, okay, we're still so upset about the whole thing. I think about that kid a lot. I hope his parents didn't abandon him. I wish I had a follow-up, but as far as I know, they never came back. Wow, that's so awful. Like, yeah, entitled parents, but also worse than that. Yeah, that's really sad. Hopefully they're okay. Like, oh yeah, we need some alone time, so we're gonna leave our kid here? Nah. Entitled mum demands that her daughter gets to ride my horse. I didn't think I'd be posting here again, but here we are. I have horses, one specific who is a shire and is a big boy, very dangerous and scared of kids. I only allow myself, my trainer and my best friend to ride him because I know that they're experienced and they can somewhat handle him, but he's more safe with me. I have a rule that they can ride him only if a first aid kit is close by with a trainer or a person who can do first aid, a safety vest and a helmet is required, and you have to build proper trust with my horse. His name is Melon, by the way, so I'm really strict and picky about who gets to ride him, not only because he's big, but he can be straight up dangerous and probably kill people. Now, the other day, me and my trainer were going on a trip. I was on Melon and she was on another horse of mine, Winnie. We were on a popular hiking trail, as the stable is located on a mountain, when we came across a mother with her daughter who looked to be about 11. The daughter said something to her mother, and then she came running over to Winnie. Winnie loves kids, but she is a horse and she can get spooked by sudden movements such as running, so she did jolt a bit, which scared the kid. And then the kid came over to Melon, and I immediately told her Melon is not friendly. That's when the devil herself came over, entitled mum. Excuse me, my daughter really wants to ride that horse? I know her owner. She was talking about Melon. Me. It's a he, and I'm the owner, and I can't let her ride for safety reasons. Entitled mum, it's fine, we can go back to the stable and get her a helmet. Oh my god, are you joking? Sorry, he's a private and he's not friendly with strangers, especially kids. Entitled mum, what about that one? Pointing to Winnie. Trainer, no, she's also a private. Entitled mum, but my daughter wants to ride, she's really good. Yeah, maybe she is, but the horse is big, falling will really hurt her, and he can stomp on her too. And Winnie doesn't even have a saddle on, your daughter could easily fall off. I'm sorry, but your daughter can't ride them. Oh, you're just making things up because you don't want to share. Trainer, even if it was made up, OP is saying no, you have to respect his decision. Entitled mum, but he's riding it. Ah yeah, because I own them, they're my private horses. Trainer, we aren't going to waste any more time here, miss. The answer is no. It's not going to change the more you ask, so we will be going on our merry way. After that we left, but it's not over because we came back to the stable about an hour later, and guess who's by the outdoor arena by the trail? Entitled mum. Now that you're back, can we use them now? Oh my god, who does stuff like this? No, you can't use them, they're not your bloody horses, now leave them alone. Trainer, no, the horses are tired and they aren't for lessons or anything. OP owns them and they said no. But why? Me, even I've fallen off my horse, I can tell you it hurts. I have a scar after surgery because he broke my leg. Entitled mum, then why do you have him? Because he's still my horse, I have a bond with him now, and even now he can buck me off. So then my daughter can build a bond with him. Yeah, that can take months, maybe years, and my answer will still be no, because I don't know your daughter's riding abilities. Just to let her ride. After that, my trainer told me to just go untack the horses, and she'll handle the lady. Trainer came in maybe 5 minutes later, getting the lady away after threatening to call the police for harassment. If someone says you can't ride their horse, stop asking, please. Yeah, and I feel like that goes without saying, doesn't it? What a rude thing to do. Like, come on, let me use your horse. I know it's yours, but come on. Stop being so selfish and give it here. Yeah, definitely not. Crazy entitled neighbor freaks out about me watching her kids. So a bit of background first. I broke my ankle back in May. I've never broken anything before, and I managed to break my bone in 2 places, so healing has been slow and new to me. I was told that I needed to keep my foot up to avoid swelling, and frankly, you didn't have to tell me twice, as putting my ankle down to the ground level felt like all the blood finally came rushing back and it was going to explode, and so it was super painful for a while. I'm getting back to the stage where it finally no longer hurts to sit up normally with my foot on the ground, and thank God, because I'm beyond tired of laying down. I can really only exist in 2 places in my home comfortably now, my bed and our couch, but moving me from the bed to the couch is a lot for both me and my boyfriend, so we only do it on weekends, and I work from home in bed during the week. So since I'm tired of laying down and now in a phase where I should be working on movement, I've been sitting on the edge of my bed for a bit every day to eat and work and move my foot, etc. At my side of the bed is a giant window, and my boyfriend opens the window daily for me so I can enjoy the sunlight. So today I was doing things as normal, sitting on the edge of the bed to work and just enjoying the summer sun. I live in a condo building, so a lot of times kids will play outside in the parking area, and I hear them so much. Not super loudly, regularly by any means, that I just zone them out when I work. I can see them sometimes, but most of the time they're over in an area that I can't really see from my window. My boyfriend had just gotten back from the grocery store and he was definitely not in the best mood since the air conditioning on the car stopped working and it was painfully hot outside. He was mumbling to himself about having to go outside when it's a bit cooler and go and take a look at it when we heard a pretty aggressive knock on the door. Everything from this point forward is my boyfriend retelling me the story since I was in the bedroom and not near the door. As soon as he opens the door, she goes off instantly. You need to tell that woman to stop staring at my kids. It's creepy. My boyfriend finds this incredibly hilarious even though he has no idea what in the world she's talking about, and his first reaction was to immediately laugh and just responded, "What?" as best he can though without him losing it. She did not like his reaction and started on a tangent, saying things along the lines of, "It's weird for her to be sitting there staring at the window during the day, and that she, me, needs to come out here and explain herself, and if I didn't come out there and apologize and stop, she would report me for being creepy," and how my boyfriend was likely equally as creepy. Oh my god, the captain of jumping to conclusions. My boyfriend was over this as fast as it started, and once he could pull himself together, he informed her that I could not come to the door and she needed to stop jumping to weird conclusions. Of course, she asked why I don't have time to come to the door but plenty of time to stare at kids. He tells her that I'm sitting on the edge of the bed like that because I'm stuck in bed due to a broken ankle and I can't walk. As she starts to go off about not believing him, he simply shuts the door in her face. He said that she knocked on the door on and off over the next hour before giving up. A little later, my boyfriend walked outside to deal with the car air conditioning and decided to look into the window, the one I was sitting in front of. He said, "You can see me, but you do need to get pretty close," and I'm clearly looking down most of the time, and when I have my laptop in hand, you can clearly see the top of it. He said it's more creepy that she came this close to the window to watch me. She hasn't come back again, and I hope she never does. We have window shades that slide down from the bottom and the top, so we decided to switch them so this weird lady can't look inside. Just a bit sad because I did enjoy having the trees visible in the background when I worked. Update. I wasn't sure if I should just add the update here, but I figured it's better than dragging things out with another post. This morning, my boyfriend noticed that one of the older ladies from a lower unit was having issues with carrying her groceries in again, so we went out to help. Usually when this happens, they chat for a bit about life. He mentioned our run-in with Crazy the other day, and she actually knew exactly who he was talking about. Apparently, she got into a spat with another unit over their numbered parking spot. She was parking in it, and they had been pretty kind with warnings for the past few weeks and never went to have it towed. She ended up hitting another car parked in the spot and then moved her car away. The owners of the spot are saying that it's her that did the damage, and she's claiming that it was them because it's their spot. The older lady knew about this because her son has a dash cam on his car. He has a motorcycle in his spot with his car, so he faces it towards the motorcycle, and it caught this on camera, and the owners of the car asked if he'd share the video. Crazy doesn't know about the video yet, so I think the real reason Crazy is so concerned about me looking out the window is that she assumed that I saw the accident or saw her parking in the wrong spot and maybe thought harassing me would keep me quiet. I'm not sure. I also was right that Crazy lives in one of the units above us and is renting it. When this car thing happened, the landlord was involved and expressed that their lease was coming to an end soon and she didn't plan to let her renew it. I have a feeling that we won't have to deal with them for long. Despite this, we did call and report it to our condo association just in case. They are usually pretty good about acting on stuff like this. We haven't seen her since, but we are absolutely having a blast hanging subtle meme signs in the window, lol. Oh my god, that was a wild ride. Right, so yeah, maybe they're just doing it to keep you quiet. That's so interesting, because it does seem a little bit ridiculous, well, like a lot bit ridiculous, for them to jump to such conclusions. Wow, that was so fun to read. My mum got mad at me for not wrapping my boyfriend's present in masculine wrapping paper. I just realized a day ago how incredibly weird this story is. My mum's always had an extreme obsession with gender roles. The story I'm talking about happened last Christmas. I was sitting at the living room table wrapping my boyfriend's present, expensive black tea and hairbands. The wrapping paper was white with tiny black polka dots. My mum walked in and stopped as if she'd seen me wrap a severed head or something. For a few seconds she stared and then in a condescending tone said, "Do you really have to use such a feminine wrapping paper?" I remember saying nothing at first because what the hell do I even reply? She saw this as an invitation to continue ranting about how I should change the wrapping paper and how it's inappropriate to give such wrapping paper to a young man. She got madder when I told her that she was the one who once told me that my boyfriend isn't even a boy because he has long hair. She can be so weird. Oh my god, that's so ridiculous. My cousin's wife tried to put their young son on a plane flight with me. Oh boy, here we go. I've lurked on this subreddit for years, but I stopped due to the pandemic for mental health reasons. But I wanted to tell this story for a while now, so let's start from the beginning. It was my very first semester as a college freshman. I officially moved into my college dorm to start my new chapter of my life. I'm an international student, so it was a tough experience once reality settled. Thankfully, I had my cousin, whom I haven't really seen in years, and his wife who lived in Dallas, and they helped me with getting a US number and bedding and school supplies. Fast forward to Thanksgiving break, I accepted my cousin's offer to go to Dallas for the break. Since it was better than staying in the dorms, I met his 2 kids, a son and a daughter. We catch up with each other, seeing how our lives went up to that point. The break ended and went back to college to study for finals, and then it happened. My cousin's wife asked for a favor via a text. The favor? Take their 8-year-old son home back to the Caribbean with me because his godmother wanted to see him. I told her that I wasn't able to do that because I didn't know when my exams were finished. I actually did know when. I just told her that so she'd leave me alone or do something herself. I already made up my mind with my mum's support that I wasn't doing that. So fast forward weeks later, I was chilling in the airport minding my own business when my good cousin called me. He asked if I was doing something for his wife. I told no and I explained myself. He thanked me and I thought that was the end of it, but no. I saw her with their son holding a suitcase and a carry-on when I was walking to my gate. My cousin was nowhere to be seen. I asked her what she was doing. She gave me some sob story of how his godmother wanted to see him and told him that he'll be good as he'll be hugging my leg. I was shocked. I felt my heart race. The groups were being called and I had to make a decision. Note, I just turned 18 at the time. I barely knew this child. I like to have everything in order and pre-plan to avoid confusion, and this would complicate everything. Furthermore, immigration would be on my case. Finally, I don't even know who his godmother is or how she looks. I told her no, stating that if she wanted to do this, they could have planned a family trip together and not dumped their kid onto me. She said that she already brought the ticket and I might as well take him. I told her no again and I went on my flight. My family was proud of me for standing my ground as they didn't like her either. Turns out that sometime after or during the pandemic, my cousin and his wife got divorced. Understandable. His now ex-wife went behind his back trying to get his son on an international flight when they could have planned a family trip together. Thank you for reading. Yeah, good on you for not going along with this. It's so awful of them to do that and to think that they can do something like this. Yeah, for real, good on you for not caving in. Definitely did the right thing. My stepmom pooped her bed and now demands my mattress. So SM equals stepmother, dad is dad and me is me. Background information, my stepmom and dad share a pull-out sofa, which is built out of 2 mattresses which can be removed for cleaning purposes. I too sleep on a foldable couch, but it doesn't have a mattress and it's quite uncomfortable. So I bought one with my money and I put it on top of it. So onto the story, my stepmother had salmonella after she ate some not fully cooked chicken that she prepared for herself, got drunk and had violent explosive diarrhea on her mattress while sleeping. She and my dad didn't manage to clean it up themselves, so they had a cleaning company come and remove it for deep cleaning. This would take up to 3 weeks due to high demand at the time. So she demanded I'd give her my mattress, even though there would be a compact foldable one in the basement, which I told her, but she just told me that she gets back pain from it since it's really thin. I told her that there'd be no way in hell I'd sleep on the pure wooden bars of my 25-plus-year-old couch. And also, I paid for the mattress with my own money. We've got a strict rule that says whatever you buy with your money does not have to be shared and it's fully yours, which I also told her. She just yelled at me that I should be happy that they took me in after my mother kicked me out. Oh god. And gave up the small bedroom which I now live in, and again demanded the mattress. I told her again that there's a foldable mattress in the basement and an air mattress should be in the walk-in closet, which she could take. She's currently on the balcony smoking. Any advice? Am I in the wrong? I'm sorry for any grammatical errors since English isn't my first language and I typed this on my phone. No, definitely not in the wrong. Like this comment says, I would tell her that she's the one who caused the situation and there is a solution. She's just being a choosing beggar. Yeah, 1,000,000%. You did this. Why should they lose their mattress that they paid for? Like maybe they're getting defensive about it because they're embarrassed or something, but it doesn't really matter. It's not their mattress. A lady wanted me to put ice in my drink. I answered with stupid. I was chilling in a Cafe Rio yesterday and I decided to go fill up my drink. So I was standing in line to fill up my drink and this lady and her maybe 6-year-old kid were also in the line, right ahead of me in fact. So the kid was about to go get his drink when the mum stopped him and told him to put ice in his drink first because everyone gets ice in their drink. So we moved out of the way and I went ahead to get my drink instead. I'm halfway through filling filling up my drink when this lady puts her hand in front of my face and directs my eyes towards her, and she's pointing at the ice machine. Everyone puts ice in their drink, she told me as she was pointing at it, and apparently I was tired as hell because I looked her dead in the eyes, and without cracking any smile or emotion, I told her, "Oh, my bad, I'm allergic to ice." So she had this shocked and confused expression, and then she and her kid just went out on their merry ways. I filled up my drink and I sat back down, and after looking at my phone for a few minutes, I look up to see her real angry and arguing with a random worker and pointing at me. Honestly, I decided it wasn't worth it, and seeing as I was finished eating, I just threw my stuff away and bounced. I woke up this morning thinking, what the hell even was that? Oh, sorry, I'm allergic to ice. Like, I don't want to say that you handled this perfectly, but you 100% did. Like, yeah, it's definitely not worth the trouble. And I was thinking, maybe they were joking when they said this, but if they're getting upset about what they said, I feel like that idea goes out the window pretty fast. And yeah, in that case, if they are genuinely upset, you don't have time for stuff like this. My sister attacked my wife, and my mum is holding our financial documents hostage because of it. Hi Reddit, this post is half to vent, but also half to check myself and make sure I'm not going crazy. My wife and I are recently married, but we've been together since December 2019. Ever since then, we've had nothing but problems with the family, particularly my mum and my one sister, as well as occasionally my brother, sister-in-law, and dad. My wife and I have talked multiple times in the past few years about whether we feel like it's gotten to the point where we need to go no contact, but we haven't pulled that trigger yet. This past weekend, however, and the aftermath are having us seriously consider it. I guess I just need some advice, the background and lead up. My wife and I were asked to help with a home project, painting for my brother and sister-in-law's new house. The only supplies that were brought for said project was one single paint sprayer and one single roll of painting tape. Even though we had 7 to 9 people at various points who were there to help, more tape was purchased. My wife, my mum, my sister-in-law, and I started taping up the parts that needed covered, and my brother started painting behind us. There wasn't a whole lot of tape, so once we finished that, there wasn't anything to do besides sit around and wait. Eventually, my sister starts painting, and my wife and I decide around 7 p.m. that it'd probably be smart to try to order some food for everyone. My wife is with one group on one side of the year talking about food orders, and I'm on the other side with my mum and my sister. My wife heard them yelling and was concerned, especially due to previous history, that something was happening. So she came over and asked what was going on. Here's a play-by-play of this conversation. Sister hands me the paint sprayer. Your turn. Me. Oh, okay, I thought I was supposed to go get food. Sister. Too bad. Mum. I did ask you to help paint. Me. Well, I did help tape. Mum. Well, I didn't ask you to help tape. I asked you to help paint. Didn't I? Yeah, well, I suppose. Wife. What are you guys yelling about? Mum. Oh no, we're just giving him some crap. Wife. Oh, okay, it just sounded like yelling. Sister. He can talk to his family without you. It's none of your effing business. Oh my god. Wife. Huh? Sister. You have no right to be blanking blank to my mum. It's none of your business. And he can talk to his family without you around. Wife. I was just asking a question about my husband. Is there a problem with that? Sister. You don't get to talk to my mum like that, you biatch. Wife. Again, I was asking a simple question about my husband. Sister takes a couple of steps towards my wife, and my wife walks towards my sister. My sister is centimeters from my wife's face. Wife places her hand on my sister's chest and tells her to back off. And then my sister started swinging. Basically, my sister started swinging on my wife, and my wife put her hands up to block her face and accidentally hit my sister in the face. After this, I pulled my sister back and my wife stepped back. My sister was yelling stuff like, "She freaking hit me, call the cops." After my sister eventually seemed to calm down, I let her go and she lunged at my wife again, and this time got a hit in. I pulled her back again, and then my brother and sister-in-law walk up and start yelling at my wife. Sister-in-law says that my wife is making them look like trash to the new neighbors, and my brother tells us to get the hell off his property. My mum started yelling at my wife, telling her that she's being a biatch and that she had no right to come at her, my mum, like that, even though my wife hadn't even moved yet from the spot where she was standing. Wait a second, what? So were they rude in the way they were talking to them? Because surely nothing's happened here. Fast forward, and over the past few days we've gotten many text messages and phone calls. The gist of those is basically continuing to blame my wife and telling me that I'm a terrible brother, son, and uncle to his sister's kids, who were also present for the entire scenario. Additionally, we need some old tax forms for some financial paperwork we need to fill out, and while my wife's parents sent those to us as soon as they were able, my parents are holding them hostage and flat out refusing to give them to us. I was told that I'd have to drive an hour to their house to retrieve them and have a conversation with my mum, and that my wife was not welcome to this this conversation. Additionally, that my wife is no longer welcome in their house. When we called and asked if my mum could please just email them to us, we need them, her exact response was maybe. Withholding our financial documents feels like it should be a last straw for me, but it's really hard, and I want to make the right choice. Edit. Hi all, thank you for the comments. My mum finally gave us the tax returns. She had them because she's always filed for my siblings and I. In regards to everything else, my wife and I will be going no contact. We're currently sitting down making plans and putting the rest of our affairs in order to cut the ties. Edit number 2. Wife here, I want to clarify because I see some of the comments. My husband intervened the second that it got physical. The reason he didn't intervene before that point is because during previous conversations where we have attempted to work stuff out with his mum and sister, they've communicated that they have something to say to me. I'm perfectly capable of defending myself against them, and I agree with this, and from the very beginning I'd always asked my husband to let me speak up instead of just him. Part of this is because I'm just that type of person, but it's also mostly because of my husband due to severe anxiety and constant abuse throughout his whole childhood, shuts down when there's conflict with his family. I'm the type of person that stays very level-headed in high-stress situations, and so therefore I'm typically more equipped to defend either both of us or me in those scenarios. In this case, I can handle any of them yelling at me, and I have no issue defending myself. I honestly prefer it, but yeah, the second that it got physical, however, he jumped right in. Yeah, it sounds like you really need to go no contact, and by the sounds of this, you probably don't need Reddit to tell you this. Like, if your family is literally attacking your wife, that's when enough is enough. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to babysit and wanting to move out ASAP? I, 20 male, have 3 brothers, 15 male, 14 male, and 11 male. For a bit of context, I lived away from home when I was 15 to 17. Back in late 2019, I moved back home with my parents. Just before Christmas of 2019, my parents broke up and left my mum a single mum with 4 children to look after. This left a huge responsibility to me at 17 because she asked if I could help her as her childcare. I agreed because I didn't want my family to fall apart, as if I had said no, we would have struggled. For those curious, one of the reasons I moved a few years ago was because 2 of my brothers, 15 male and 11 male, would invade my privacy daily, like stealing my items, taking my snacks, messing my room up so there was nowhere to walk, and taking anything they wanted since they could walk and talk. And fast forward to earlier in the year, I've been babysitting and taking care of my brothers for 2 years, and their behavior's only gotten worse. The now 15-year-old and 11-year-old have only gotten worse to the point where all the doors of the house have locks to prevent them from stealing, and we have cameras in almost every room. Oh my god. The behavior has gotten to the point where everyone in the house is physically, mentally, and emotionally abused, mostly by my 11-year-old brother. Going back to the title, I recently had a huge falling out with my mum, and I refused to babysit and pay for rent for the weeks that I did babysit. I've decided I'd rather pay rent than babysit. Due to changing jobs and being told I'd be on a higher pay, I've been struggling to pay the rent that my mum wants from me. On top of this, I've gotten about $1 grand in debt total. Most of it is from buying a PC from a friend of mine, but I explained to my mum that I do want to try and get the debt down. She then demanded I pay rent despite babysitting my brothers, which I refused to pay rent for, and she told me to go find somewhere else to live. I'm now staying with family for the time being, just to create some more space and time to think about how to move forward. I get my own essentials, I pay for a lot of my own food, my own travel like the average independent adult, and if I have the money, I'll pay off my debt. Since this falling out with my mum, she's increased the amount of rent she wants from me. If I go back, my rent is increased and I won't have to look after my brothers, but I know she'll go out and leave them with me and make it a problem if I say no. I know that my brother's behavior will never change, and I've tried talking to my mum about it, as she is the parent. At this point, I'm considering saving what I can and finding somewhere to live. My job pays alright money, but I can't work enough to save properly, as I'm always tied down to kids that aren't mine. I'm tired of living somewhere where I can't be comfortable in my own home and where everything is my fault. Am I the a-hole? Yeah, no, definitely not the a-hole. You need to get out of there so soon. Find a friend or find somebody to live with and split the rent. Yeah, like the top comment says, you gotta get a roommate and be on your own, and let your mum figure parenting and babysitting out, not the a-hole. Yeah, it sounds like it'd be super relieving to get out of there. My mum chucked out all of my chokers because wearing a choker is screaming that you're a you-know-what. So context, my parents are both extremely Christian and both work for the church. I myself am Christian, but I do dress goth because I enjoy spooky things and it makes me happy. Sadly, my mum doesn't agree but lets it slide since I'm 21. I'm an adult, but I still live with my parents due to my disability and being in college at the same time. She was chill with the goth thing until yesterday when I was looking for my chokers because I was going to go on a girls' day shopping trip with my friend. I couldn't find my chokers and I asked my mum if she knew where they were, since I always keep them in my room, which she never goes into due to my bearded dragon and other reptiles being gross to her. That is when she told me that she threw them away because wearing a choker is just screaming that you're you know what, whom has her legs open for business for any guy. Note that I'm in a committed relationship with my boyfriend of 2 years now, and I have no interest in hooking up with random guys or anyone who isn't my boyfriend. This is where I yelled at her back and forth for a few minutes before going with my friend and ranting to my bestie about it. My bestie got me 2 new chokers, thankfully, and we'll keep them at their place so my mum can't get a hold of any more chokers. I'm still fuming mad about this. So much for my collection of 16 different chokers. Guess I'm gonna have to start again and try to move out as soon as I can after college to escape her taking all of my pets with me, of course. I've been ranting to my bearded dragon while writing this as well. Wow, that sucks. And also, imagine saying what they said to somebody. Surely as the words are coming out of your mouth, you'd be like, wait a second, what I'm saying right now doesn't make a lot of sense. Mum at the cinema who couldn't keep off her phone because she apparently couldn't not see her son. I was crazy excited to see Barbie this weekend. It was unbelievably perfect, but that's besides the point. I'd already had to move because I'd realized with 5 minutes to go until the movie started that the woman next to me was vaping. I then went to sit somewhere else next to a group of women all dressed in Barbie pink, clearly on a girl's day out. Okay, cool, they're in the vibe. I'm also wearing a pink shirt and nails. Hopefully we'll all have a great time together. Absolutely not, because unfortunately the woman I was sat next to kept going on her phone. I sat and took it, not wanting to make a fuss or interrupt the movie too much, but then she started watching a video. That was my tipping point. I tried to be calm and polite and just said, excuse me, could you not use your phone? It's really annoying. She very bluntly says, you can just look at the screen and not look. I counter back, okay, but it's still annoying and maybe you should look up some cinema etiquette. She then, in a very aggressive tone, but where you can tell that she thought she was having an empowered mum moment, said, this is the first time I've been away from my son for 6 months, so you can stop now. I'm not a parent, but I can't imagine being that obsessive over your child that at 6 months old, you can't not see him for 2 and a bit hours. Thinking about it, she kept mostly texting and then she'd clearly been sent a video of her son. I was so annoyed. I went to sit somewhere else. I could not believe the entitlement. Wow, they can't even watch a movie without being on their phone. God, that's so annoying. And you paid to go and see the movie and you have somebody's bright ass distracting phone next to you. Oh, that's so frustrating. And the fact that they don't see that they're being super annoying is even more frustrating. Entitled mother-in-law demanded to know the contents of our mail. For context, my husband and I have lived at our address for almost 5 years. His parents live in a different state and moved houses 3 years ago. We're visiting his parents for the weekend and the mail carrier just rocked up with a certified letter addressed to my husband at his parents' old address. 2 things are going through my head. 1, why did they send it to that address of all places? And 2, we're not going to hear the end of this all weekend. We went ahead and signed for it to appease the mail carrier, as it was going to be a battle either way. Mother-in-law is super nosy and is an attack chihuahua, gets stuck on something and won't let go. The contents of the letter aren't pleasant, even if they aren't relevant anymore, and if she goes snooping, which I don't put past her, it's gonna cause more friction in my already shaky relationship with her. Edit to add, she did actually ask several times what the mail was and even hollered, hello, aren't you going to tell me? Yeah, no, and that's the end of it, okay? Neighbor opens up my parcel and shouts at me for the contents. I can't even believe this conversation just happened. The sheer entitlement and ridiculousness of it made me laugh, but also left me speechless. I ordered a mug from Amazon as a gift to my best mate. The mug has the C word on it with the C as the handle. Cute mug, would recommend. Anyway, there's a house on the street next to mine that has a very similar address to mine and will often get their post and they sometimes get mine. For example, my address will be something like number 6 random street and theirs is number 6 random side street. It's annoying as they're different plus or minus 1 word, but the names of myself and that family are so wildly different that you'd think the postman or any delivery driver might have gotten used to that by now, but I digress. I had the notification from Amazon to say that my mug had been delivered and it was in the safe place. I go to check and it isn't, so I go round to similar address house to see if it was indeed there, and I get no answer. I decide that I'll try again and or they'll bring it over before I contact Amazon. A few days pass and they don't bring my parcel around, so I get Amazon to replace it, but then half an hour ago there was a knock on my door. I open the door to the father of the family at similar address holding my Amazon parcel that's been opened, and he quite literally throws it at me. Before I can even form words, he says, my 11-year-old child opened that. Don't you ever order something so disgusting disgusting again. How dare you? And started to storm off. I registered what the hell he just said and I shout after him, wait, what? No one should be opening my post anyway. That's a criminal offense. How dare you have the cheek to come to my house and berate me for opening my post? He just waved his hand at me dismissively and carried on walking. I just stood there for a good minute trying to figure out if that actually just happened. Well, it did, and now I have 2 C-word mugs. I'm so tempted to leave one on his doorstep with a note saying, you can keep it, mate. It's definitely been made for you. Wow, that would be so funny. But you're getting angry at you because they opened your mail. Like, you're allowed to order whatever the hell you want. The point is, they're not meant to open it. And the fact they don't realize that is so bad. The worst Karen I've ever seen caused a blow up for the ages because I wouldn't give her son a black belt on his first day of karate. Background, I teach Kenpo karate as a 2nd degree black belt. I also have an assistant, Kira, a 1st degree black belt in her own right. I don't own the gym, my instructor does, but since he's gotten older, me and Kira handle the younger classes, while he handles the business side of things plus the adult class. We have 3 classes, kids class ages 5 to 10, intermediate class ages 11 to 15, and the adult class ages 16 and up. So the kids class just ended when a woman walks in with her son. She says that her 13-year-old son wants to take karate lessons, so I shake my hands with her and I have her sit down with my instructor to fill out the waivers and get him his gi measurements. Other students file in for the intermediate class and me and Kira get down to business. I take the bulk of the class, around 15 kids, while Kira goes with the new student one-on-one to teach him basic strikes and stances. Not even 5 minutes later, I hear Kira upset, telling the new boy to do 10 push-ups. Why? He called Kira, who's essentially a volunteer, an effing biatch. Karen, the mother, stands up and says that her son can't do push-ups as she doesn't want her son to be sore. Kira lets him do the push-ups on his knees, but 5 minutes later she makes him do 20 more, since he's now called her an S-word. Oh my god. For reference, Kira is in her early 20s and the boy is 13. Not to mention there's other parents and kids here as well. It's wholly inappropriate. So I walk over and I ask Kira to switch with me. As she does, she gives me bug eyes and mouths, what the hell? So I walk over and I ask the boy why he insulted my assistant Kira. He said that he doesn't like girls. Wow, what? When I asked him what he meant, he said he only listens to his dad or other boys. Yeah, that's revolting. He won't listen to me at all. He needs some discipline. The mother confirms to me, chuckling, as if raising a monster is something to laugh about. When do I get a black belt like you have? The boy asks me. Mind you, he's been punching the air the entire time. This boy is aggressively hyper. Well, it takes quite a while. I've been training since I was 5, and I earned my black belt at 21, so it took me a while. Nah, I don't want to wait that long. I want mine now, he says, his chubby face now red and sweaty from the shadow boxing. The mother motions me over and whispers in my ear, do you think you could give him one just to make him happy? Oh yeah, cause that's a good idea. No, sorry, he has to earn one. We aren't a belt factory. Well, he never gets told no. Yeah, that's bloody obvious. I'm sorry, but that's not how we do things here. I have money, I can pay you extra. No, sorry, we only give belts when they're earned. After several minutes of arguing and conversation that leads nowhere, Karen snaps at me. I paid you, now give my son a black belt. She stands up and points a finger in my face. It was so sudden that I took a step back. Hey, chill out, lady. Some of the other parents chime in. Before I can even reply to Karen, I hear a loud commotion behind me. I hear more parents and students shouting. I turn and I see new boy smacking and hitting a girl in the class. Kira is shouting, hey, stop. However, this girl that new boy is hitting is a purple belt and a little badass of her own. She loads a front kick and hits brat boy's center mass right in his flappy stomach. He shouts and doubles over, crying tears of pain. I was so freaking proud of her. Hey, that little biatch hurt my son. Karen runs past me onto the mat and gets in the face of the 14-year-old girl that her son just attacked. This girl's already scared and starts to cry, but Karen ups the ante and shoves this girl in the chest with her hand. Kira gets between them and is red-faced enraged. I immediately rush over and I try to defuse the situation, but neither of them are having it. Parents stand up and they start shouting, keep your hands off my daughter. The girl's father, who was with the other parents, yells at Karen. He starts approaching aggressively but backs off when he realizes me and Kira, both black belts, are by her. Now, you should know something about Kira. She's under 5 foot, less than 110 pounds soaking wet, but she can still kick my ass up and down the mat on any given day. She's fast and accurate and insanely flexible. She can control her body and perform techniques that I just simply can't. So, Kira and Karen get into a shouting match with each other. I tell Karen to leave with your kid and don't come back. Don't you ever lay a hand on any of my students. Do you understand? I I raised my voice and I was genuinely pissed off. F you, my son needs a black belt and you won't give him one. She screams at me. Your son is crazy. He attacked our students. Kira interjects, but this sets Karen off as she reaches and tries to slap Kira in the face. Ha ha ha, big mistake. Having had enough, Kira parries the smack and fires an absolutely vicious leg kick right into the meat of Karen's inner thigh with nothing held back. The slap sound of Kira's shin bone decimating Karen's thigh echoed off the ceiling like a slab of meat getting thrown onto the floor. It was glorious. Karen was gasping as she fell onto the mat in a heap. Oh my god. She held her leg as Brat Boy got up and rushed over at Kira. I got in front of her and I grabbed the boy's wildly swinging arms. He hit me a few times, but I refused to hit children whatsoever. I let him tire himself out. One of the parents called the police. After interviewing everyone involved, they determined that Kira and myself acted in self-defense. Neither of us wanted to pursue assault charges against Karen, but the parents of the girl that Karen shoved rightly felt differently about it, so Karen was hauled away in handcuffs. Karen said that she'd sue me and Kira in civil court, but since we have legal waivers, he's hoping that nothing comes of that. As for the boy, I honestly felt bad. His childhood has been robbed by piss-poor parenting, and I wish we could have had more time to straighten him out. I have particular dislike for his views of women, and I feel like I really could have helped turn him around. Maybe, but maybe not. So yeah, that was my experience tonight. I hope you all enjoyed reading it more than I did going through it. Oh my god, that was unbelievable. Imagine going to somewhere that teaches karate and causing crap and fighting with them. Like, did you forget that these people know how to fight? And how they thought there was nothing wrong with giving their kid a black belt for no reason? Well, I'm kinda in disbelief after this. Entitled parent dumped his child in our wagon. So I posted this in a Facebook group and I was told it belonged here. I have a new, literally a few weeks old, wonderful W4 wagon. I'm in the UK, so here they come with a pretty hefty price tag. I took my kids to the park in it and I put it beside the bench, just a couple of feet from the swings where my youngest wanted to go. I was watching it like a hawk, like it was another one of my babies. A couple walked up and they pushed it around to try it out. That was irritating enough, but then a dad walked up to it with a dirt-covered kid and sat him inside it. I flipped out at him. He actually got offended that I was telling him off. He said that his child was tired and it looked comfy. There was a bench literally right next to it. The seat that he put him in also had some of my son's sensory equipment on it. We got this wagon literally as assistive equipment for my son who has sensory processing disorder and a neurological muscular dystrophy. If it were a stroller or a wheelchair, would this guy have thought it was appropriate? I don't know, but either way, I wasn't impressed. A couple of people said he may have just been testing to see if anyone was watching so he could steal it. If that's the case, that's just a whole other case of entitlement. Yeah, I don't understand people who think they can do stuff like this. Like, yeah, how are you this entitled and also inconsiderate? And inconsiderate for other people's stuff? I don't know, but it's super fun to read. Entitled mum parentifies daughter because she's too lazy to properly raise her two other kids. Is upset when daughter wants nothing to do with the siblings. Am I the a-hole for being upset that my daughter didn't invite her siblings to her wedding? I, 47 female, had my daughter Claire while I was in college. She was definitely an oops baby, but I love her all the same. Long story short, I got married when I was 30 and I have 2 kids, 10 male and 7 female, with my husband, and they are of course Claire's younger siblings, but I don't think she loves them like siblings. When she came home from college for the summer, she always spent time with her friends and cousins and never with her siblings. I asked her to watch them so that my husband and I could have a break, but she said that she was too busy. But I know that she had time because she didn't have kids or a job. Anyway, Claire recently sent out invitations for a wedding. Her fiance is a good guy, but he always encouraged Claire to spend time with his family instead of ours. And more importantly, he always wanted her to spend time with him and away from her siblings. Regardless, I've been polite and cordial with him. However, when I saw the invitations, I was appalled. You guys, their wedding is child-free. Children are the most important thing in our family tradition. To not include them in their wedding is a slap in the face to everything that our family stands for. Even so, I respect her decision. However, when I called her up to confirm that her younger siblings were still invited, she laughed in my face. I understand not wanting all of her cousins and nieces and nephews there, but to exclude her own siblings is heartless, and I told her as much. She called me entitled for trying to dictate what she does with her own wedding, and when I tried to explain I was just looking out for my other kids, and that she's not my only kid no matter how much she wishes that she was, she hung up on me, and now she's not speaking to me. Am I the a-hole, and how can I get her to include her other siblings? Yeah, like the top comment says, she was definitely an oops baby. Everything about how you talk to her and about her in this post makes it apparent that you treated her this way. Children are the the most important thing in our family tradition, like here, but I know that she had time because she didn't have kids or a job, and here. But most importantly, her fiance is a good guy, but he always encouraged Claire to spend time with his family instead of ours. And more importantly, he always wanted her to spend time with him and away from her siblings. Here, because you see her spending time with her fiance as not spending time with her siblings. You see a young woman spending time with the man that she's gonna marry, and your first thought is, but what about my children? Listen, if you had the self-awareness or emotional maturity to understand or accept what anyone is saying here, I'm 100% sure that we wouldn't be here in the first place. So I'm confident I'm just enjoying the sound of my own voice at this point. But let me make it abundantly clear, you the a-hole. You treat your daughter like an afterthought to your happy little family, but you expect her to make them her absolute priority, and she's sick of it. But good news, if you keep going down this track, you'll find you only now have your children to worry about, as your daughter will likely go complete no contact. Yeah, and that would be super sad. But yeah, they've 100% parentified them, and that's not good. My friend's parents broke into my house and they killed my pet snake because he was the sign of the devil. I'm 23 female currently. This happened about 2 years ago. I had a 3-year-old fancy corn snake named Popcorn. I invited my friend over. She likes snakes, but her parents were overly Christian and they claimed that snakes were the sign of the devil, so she had to pretend that she hated them. So anyway, she came over and we talked and we fed the snake and played video games, and then she left. When she got home, she must have told her parents that I had a snake, so about a week later they snuck in through the living room window where I kept my snake, opened his enclosure lid and grabbed him. The next morning I went downstairs to say good morning to Popcorn. I noticed he was gone, but I wasn't too worried because, well, he was probably hiding. I watched for a bit and then my friend was frantically knocking on my door. I opened it and she looked extremely sad and worried. She told me that her parents had killed Popcorn. I didn't believe her, so I checked his entire enclosure and sure enough he was gone. I called the cops and she was fortunately arrested for breaking and entering, though I still feel like she deserved more. I got a new snake, but he isn't the same. Oh my god, that's awful. How revolting. Like, what do you even do in a situation like this? Like, you've got to be a certain type of awful to do stuff like this. Yuck. My entitled parents are stalking me to start talking to them again. Hi there, I made a post somewhere else about my parents wanting me to sign their car in my name, but it's been nearly 2 years since then, and after cutting contact, my mum has shown up at my old house for my birthday, knowing I wasn't interested in seeing her anymore. She also told her boss about me, and the woman found me at my job on accident because I work in customer services. She seemed to feel like my mum lied to her about when we finished talking, but I guess she still told my mum where I worked. So a month later, my mum drove halfway across town, brought only water refills which were 38 cents a gallon, and stood behind me for apparently a good few minutes until I turned around and saw her. I immediately started screaming at her to leave, and first she looked annoyed and then she ran off and started laughing, so I cussed her out. Honestly, she acted like a bratty teenager and not a 50-something-year-old woman. Manager was really cool about the whole thing. Apparently another employee has been dealing with a similar situation with my mum. I've talked to a judge at this point and the police. Not enough for a restraining order, but I've been told to file a police report on both the store incident and her coming to my home, which I did. I guess I'm just documenting what's happening now until the law gets sick of the incidents popping up. Holy, this is an intense episode today, guys. How are you guys doing so far? But yeah, so they think that the way to get you to start talking to them again is by stalking you. Oh, I'm sorry that you have to go through stuff like this. Cousin was mad that I didn't barbecue food without seasoning for her baby. On the weekend immediately after July 4th, I hosted a family barbecue. My slightly older cousin in her mid-30s had told me that she was not coming a week in advance. Then about 2 hours before the event, she changes her mind and tells me that she's coming with her husband and her 1.5 female baby. This wasn't a problem because we bought enough food for there to be lots of leftovers. While we were there, my husband and I were slaving away in front of 3 different barbecues in the yard to cook for a group of 24 plus people and a baby. We didn't have time to take a break or go inside with everybody else. They were inside because it was raining. During this time, my cousin or her husband constantly came over to complain about our food. What? At your own barbecue? They were the only ones who complained that the food was too salty. Everyone else who came over to speak with us loved and devoured the food. After the Wagyu tomahawks were served, my cousin came over again. This time her face was red and she was livid. It was red from anger and not drinking. She's a non-drinker. She started complaining that we should have known better, that her baby couldn't eat such salty foods, and that we should have made separate food for them unseasoned. Yeah, but they didn't even know that you were coming 2 hours ago. How How entitled. Oh yeah, that's the name of the subreddit. I told her there was no way we could have done that. We already bought all the food that we needed beforehand. Everything was seasoned or dry brined ahead of time. I suggested giving her a big bowl of water so she could try washing off any seasoning before feeding her baby, but she said that wasn't good enough. That's when her husband showed up and suggested that I go to the butcher and buy another tomahawk and come back. That way their daughter could also have some unseasoned. My husband said no, we weren't wasting time, gas and money on a 1.5-year-old. Even if we did, she obviously wouldn't have been able to finish an entire steak. I just don't understand what changed. She was never like this before she had her kid. Now she expects the world to revolve around her and her kid. Is this something that involuntarily happens to a large percent of new parents? I don't know, but that's so bad. I am now a parent, so therefore I'm gonna be entitled. Like, they're out of their minds if they think that what they did was acceptable. Imagine going to somebody else's house where they're hosting a barbecue for you and not only complaining about the food, but suggesting that they should go and buy more stuff and make different stuff on top of that. That's ridiculous and so rude. Entitled parent ruins wedding. First time posting here, and fair warning, I'm jet lagged and on my cell, so I'm sorry if the writing is not up to par, but I'm livid at this super entitled parent that didn't give a crap about ruining a major life moment for almost 90 people. So yesterday, our dear friends got married in the most epic and intimate ceremony. They did allow children at this wedding, however the plan was to have the kids in the balcony space so that if somebody needed to take a child out they could. I later confirmed this fact with the bride. Our group gets up to the ceremony and we're seated. We look around and we notice we're surrounded in all sides by children under the age of 9. We're all child free by choice, so we were giving each other a little side eye, but honestly most of the kids were really good and their parents were able to non-verbally communicate to them when they needed to shush, and they got it. The ceremony starts and it seems like it was all going to be fine. The groom and the bridal party walk in and we're all preparing for the bride when this kid behind us starts loudly whining to his mum to give him his cars. I want my cars, I want my cars. He was so demanding, and instead of her parenting him, she starts shuffling through her bag for his toys. Distracting, but whatever, maybe the car will shut him up. Oh god, I hate this already. The bride walks in and the ceremony starts. It was a beautiful mix of religious traditions and creative additions of things that were meaningful. The entire time, this kid is making loud noises and slamming his toys around. I had to cut my ear with my hand to hit the ceremony, and many others were turning around to look and see what the noise was about. Even the bridal party was looking around, which you would think the mother would notice and then get the memo to take her kid out. But no, he gets louder and louder, screaming about his cars or whatever. His mum does nothing. Finally, during the point in the ceremony where the mother of the bride was trying to recite a blessing, a member of our party turned around and told the mum that her child was being very disruptive and asked her to take him out, which I was really grateful for. She huffed and puffed her way out finally, and we think this is over. Wrong. At the reception, this entitled mother stomps up to me. I was in the middle of an important catch-up conversation. She demands to know who I am and who my friends were that were sitting next to me. I told her we're close friends of the bride and groom, and then she demands to know our names. I told her whatever, but then she marches around looking for my friend who asked her to leave, and when she found him, she starts screaming F you, telling all within earshot that she can't believe the bride and groom would be friends with such a terrible person. I walked over and I asked her what her real issue was, and she said it was my friend's tone. I told her that it was really disappointing that we missed the blessing because of her disruptive child. She's pointing her finger and waving her palms in my face, saying how it's her right to have her son there with her. Because of all the commotion, a friend of hers comes up to see what's going on. The entitled mother goes on about how we attacked her. Oh my god, kick them out at this point. And her friend then actually out loud goes, oh, I left my kid at home, with a chuckle. And then the entitled mother comes back at me with her sass hands and demands to know if I have kids, to which I chuckled and said no, thinking in my head, so that I can avoid crap like this. She then flicked her hand in my face and stomped away. This woman had no business having her child in the main ceremony room. She refused to honor the request to keep the children in the balcony, but also had no parental control like the other people with kids. Like, whatever, I'm just a friend, but I know the bridal party was having a hard time trying to concentrate due to this child. The audacity of this parent will forever be seared into the memory of this destination wedding for us. I mean, wow, this woman was top tier entitled. Yeah, and they don't even care that they're ruining it for everybody else. It's so sad. I just don't understand how they don't see that they're in the wrong. That's the most confusing part about stuff like this. Like, anybody on the earth could tell that you're in the wrong, but they're like, no, it's my right to ruin a wedding for everybody. Very, very cringe. The public public street parking is only for the park. I work in a downtown area, so parking is mostly street. Today I parked next to one of the playground parks. I got out, gathered my work stuff and locked my car. Behind me, a van rolled up. The driver rolled down the window. Driver, are you leaving? This happens a lot. Parking is hard to come by within the first 3 blocks of the commercial center of town. Me, no, sorry, I just parked. Driver, well, you can't park there. That parking is for parents going to the park. I've been working and living around here for 10 years. There definitely isn't street parking only for the park. Me, it's public parking. Good luck. If you need to unload your kids, there's room there. Just throw your hazards on. I pointed to a one-way drive, waved goodbye and started to leave. The driveway belongs to a church. Near as I can tell, they don't mind people turning around in there or stopping quick to unload their cars. I've pulled many U-turns in their driveway to get other parking spots before. Nobody said anything about it. Anyway, the driver rolled the other window down after I crossed the street to continue to say things. You really should move your car. We're going to the park. Just find another spot. I'm not moving my car. I have to go to work. Good luck finding a spot. Driver, I'll have you towed. That parking is for the park only. I waved and I kept walking. Lo and behold, my car did not get towed. Maybe they thought they could scare me out of my spot. Who knows? People are wild. You won't give me a key to your house? That's fine. I'll make one for myself. Yeah, sorry in advance. I know this is a long one. It's actually an entitled grandparent story, but this lady has been involved in my upbringing since I was a child, and this woman hates me. To give some background, my grandmother is a hardcore Catholic and former nun, and was extremely strict with my dad and me. My dad got his 17-year-old girlfriend drunk and pregnant, which is obviously a huge no-no in the Catholic Church. My grandma pretty much pressured my mum to convert to Catholicism and marry my dad, and later they had 2 more kids. But because I was born out of wedlock, I'm the black sheep. But not just my grandma, my entire dad's side will never be happy with me, and they hate me and my mum. For reference, I'm 24 and my sisters are 22 and 20. The youngest just moved out with her partner, but neither have jobs, and the middle one and her fiance are extremely financially irresponsible, and they live with my parents and just expect to have everything handed over to them. I'm out of the house with a professional job, I'm married and I have a child, and I've been doing really good for myself, and I'm the disappointment. My grandma was extremely strict and abusive, specifically to me. She's yelled at me multiple times, calling me the child of the devil or a demon, etc. Has thrown stuff at my face for no reason, and I wasn't allowed to have any privacy at her house. I always had to have the bedroom door open, and she would sit at the foot of my bed until I fell asleep. I had to spend every weekend and break from school with her until I started working at 15, and she would scream at me if I locked the bathroom door. You get the idea? She would also threaten to call the cops if we didn't comply with her, and there were multiple instances where she'd call the cops if we didn't answer our phones. Like she called at 7 AM and 10 PM on separate occasions, and I've woken up to cops knocking at my door. And yeah, this has happened when I'm at home and out of town, where I didn't even tell her where I was staying. She's psycho. So on with the story. I actually found out the other day that she did this, so I'm sharing this now. Anyway, when I was 20, I decided to move out with a couple of friends. My grandma demanded that I give her a key to the duplex. I refused for multiple reasons. Oh my god, you don't even need a reason. Like, why should you get a key? Very entitled. And yeah, I refused for multiple reasons. In the first place, I don't need my grandma being able to come over whenever she wants, especially since one of my roommates was my boyfriend. In the second place, we threw a lot of get-togethers, and I don't need her lecturing my friends that Dungeons and Dragons and anime are all tools of the devil, and we need to all go to church with her. And in the third place, we'd all agree to not give out copies of our keys to any family members, and I'm not about to have my friend's privacy invaded as well, because my grandma just can't handle not having control over every little part of my life. I mean, she still called multiple times every single day and found excuses to try to come over as much as possible, and every time for the first couple of months, she kept on demanding that I give her a key to our place, and I kept on refusing. Well, at one point, my younger sister was spending the night and my grandma dropped her off. We were gonna go do some shopping, but I couldn't find my keys. I'm looking everywhere and I can't find them anywhere, so my grandma offered to pick up what I needed to make dinner. I reluctantly agreed and went back to look for my keys. They somehow were right on the bar. I didn't really think much of it at the time because I do stuff like that all the time, but my sister told me the full story. Apparently the next day when my grandma picked her up, she bragged to her how she stole my keys when I wasn't looking and made herself a copy of the key so she can go inside whenever she wanted. You're not allowed to do that. Now, she's never barged in while I'm home, so I'm guessing she was coming in when no one was home and going through everything, and it's justified, you know, because she's just making sure that we were making good Catholic choices. It also wouldn't be the first time she's gone through my stuff when I'm not home. home, because she'd do the same thing at my parents' house and then berate me if she found stuff that she didn't like. Apparently she's been trying to steal my keys for this house too, but she hasn't been able to figure out where I keep my keys. I keep my keys in our bedroom in the far back of the house, and I will not have my keys around her now for this exact reason. Oh my god. Yeah, you're not allowed to do stuff like this. Yeah, like the top comment says, bro, this is literally illegal. Tell her to give back any copies that she has and think about involving the landlord or the police. And the original poster underneath, I'm sure she got rid of it after we moved. It was about 2 to 4 years ago. Starting the episode on a strong note today. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable that somebody even thinks they can do stuff like this. Like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna get a key made for your house so I can go in and look at all of your stuff and make sure you're doing the right thing. No, okay? 1,000,000% not okay. Dad insisted on dropping candy from a plane to celebrate his daughter's birthday. I used to work in an outdoor education program that involves middle schools bringing their students to stay overnight for 3 to 5 days. One week we had a slightly more affluent group and one of the girls was having a birthday during the week. This happens all the time, so we usually sing for the kid and the parents can pack a card and treat for them. This girl's dad did not find this celebration enough because he asked the school to ask my boss if he could fly his plane over the field and drop bags of candy for the kids. What? That's not a very efficient way of delivering candy. The camp owner obviously said no because this was a huge safety issue and he didn't want to get sued. The teachers told us that it would not happen. And then during the week we started to hear murmurs from the teachers that maybe the dad was going to do it anyway. My boss confronted them and they assured her that it definitely wasn't going to happen, that they were just talking about how they would have done it if they could have. My boss was suspicious, so on the day of the girl's birthday, she warned us to drop off our kids with the teachers and go straight back to our cabin so we wouldn't be around and liable just in case. Sure enough, a few minutes later, the dad flies by and starts dropping trash bags full of candy out of his plane. He clearly was not well practiced in this because the majority of the bags ended up landing in trees and getting caught there. My boss was furious and the school was banned from ever returning. I think the camp director also tried to get the dad fined for littering because of all the trash bags in the trees, but I'm not sure if that ever went anywhere. Luckily, no kids were hurt. Oh my god, that's a little bit more than entitled. That's entitlement, but also like 4 brain cells. Why would you even want to do this? Like, even if you did it and nothing went wrong and it went exactly the way you planned it, it's still not even that cool or anything. Like, even if it went to plan, it's still kind of stupid. Yeah, wow, that's so bad and so confusing. Parents made every single birthday about my sister for the last 8 years. I recently saw a similar story read online and I realized I just had to tell my own. This will be my one and only Reddit post, and I'm posting it here because I thought telling it would help me feel a little bit better. I've been to some counseling and talking about this in particular really helped, so I thought why not just tell it to online too? I'm 18 this year and fairly recently on my own from my parents. I have a sister about 10 years younger than me. She was an unplanned pregnancy and nearly didn't make it to term. I don't know many of the details of how rough my mother's second pregnancy was since I was never told much, but I do know that it was so hard on her body that my mother could no longer have kids after my sister was born. She was in and out of the hospital repeatedly that year. My mother almost didn't survive the birth either. It made her and my father latch onto my little sister because she could have potentially never been born. And ever since then, I felt like I was just the other kid in the house, except for when they needed me as a free babysitter. The level of favoritism my parents showed long term has me believing that they were genuinely sick in the head for not noticing what it was doing to me, and now it's rebounding on them, which I'll explain here. Starting with my 11th birthday, my parents wanted me to let my sister blow out my candles because she was 2 years old and cried at the sight of a birthday cake that wasn't hers. I didn't want to do it, but my parents forced me into it. They relit them for me to do it again after her, but the moment felt completely ruined. The same thing happened the next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, and so on and so forth. They just kept forcing it until it became the norm. My sister had to have presents on my birthdays as well. I never got any on hers either, and when I asked her why, they just told me that I'm a boy and boys don't need to worry about it as much. Oh, get out of here. I know I was a kid, but did they really think that was a smart thing to say? Not really, and my parents would always choose a place my sister would like more than me on my own birthday. Eventually it became more like my sister was getting 2 birthdays in a year and I got none. Beyond this, my parents made their entire lives revolve around my sister. If there's something I wanted to do, my sister had to want to do it too. Otherwise it was vetoed unless I could do it alone. I learned to lock myself in my room with my video games because they didn't seem to bother me unless my sister wanted to come running in to annoy me, hence why I put a lock on on the door. My parents wanted me to remove it, but I freaked out because I was an angry teenager who was tired of being intruded on at any given time. My sister came running in more than once when I had no clothes on, and my parents were upset at me for being naked in my own room. When I pointed out how ludicrous that was, they took back their objection and they just let me keep the lock. My sister developed quite the princess complex because of how she was being spoiled on a daily basis, and she was so demanding, so I stayed away from her as much as I feasibly could. Whatever excuse I could use to not have to deal with her, even if I had to make stuff up just to have time to myself. My parents hired a teen girl babysitter and I got more personal time, and then the babysitter quit because my sister wouldn't listen to her, and my parents tried to keep from paying by saying that she did a bad job. The girl got some other people involved and my parents finally paid her what they owed her, and then they hired another girl to babysit on the regular, and this one stayed, but my parents still made it clear that I was to be watching my sister any day I had free, which I went out of my way to make busy at my part-time job if I could. My sister treated me as her personal butler and ordered me around. She even had a stupid nickname for me that she wouldn't stop using. Just hearing that nickname makes my blood boil, and if I didn't give her everything she wanted, she'd cry and call our parents, and then I'd be in trouble for mistreating her. We had many massive arguments because of this, and after I refused to yield anymore, my relationship with my parents devolved into barely any words spoken between us for some time. During my high school graduation, they had the nerve to brag to other parents that they were the reason I worked so hard. Well, they weren't wrong, but the reason they were thinking of was not the one that actually happened. I worked hard just biding my time for when I'd be free, but my parents acted like they'd done so much. Maybe they did before my sister was born, but afterwards it was all about her. They didn't even ask me about school until parent-teacher conferences came up. I graduated with a B and C average, and after my graduation, my parents just took me to some place where my sister would always have more fun than me. Even though the trip was supposed to be for me, on my 18th birthday in July though, things really boiled to the surface. Even though it was my 18th, it didn't feel like it was about me at all. I hoped to God that they were going to my favorite restaurant for once, but no, they had the party at the local knockoff Chuck E. Cheese, which is the only place like it near to us, so it was the de facto celebratory destination whenever anything big was achieved, including my high school graduation. I did say it was a place that my sister would enjoy more than me. I was surrounded by kids half my age having parties, and I was so bored with nothing to do but eat mediocre pizza and play claw machines and dated arcade games for tickets to cheaply made prizes that brought me no joy. Then when it was time for the cake, my parents came out with one that had pink and white flowers on it. Sure, it had my name on it, but it was very obviously not a boy's cake, and there were only 10 candles. My parents lit the candles and set it right in front of my sister to blow out, and that's when it finally happened. I just had this mental moment of all the pent-up hate mentally flashing before me, and then I just started ugly crying. I, an 18-year-old boy, was crying in front of the whole family. Everyone was so shocked that time seemed to freeze. I got up and all the stuff I'd been holding in for the past 8 years just spilled out like word vomit. The entire family got to be witness to this event, and when it was finally over, I just walked outside to sit by the family car. Several relatives trailed out after me to say they were sorry, and they didn't know about the pink cake because my parents kept it covered until it was served. I said it didn't matter that they didn't know. They all sat back and watched as my life was taken over by Little Miss Sunshine for the past 8 years. I had no real birthdays or celebrations of my own. They were all about her. And then on the biggest birthday of my life, they all expected me to just smile and nod while they handed my sister a cake that was entirely meant for her when it wasn't even her birthday. Some of them started giving me apologies, but they made the excuse that all this time they just thought I was okay with it because my parents said I was. I told them I was never okay with it, and my parents forced it onto me every single year until I just pretended to accept it. I spread my arms out and I said to look where we are. Does it look like the place I want to be celebrating my graduation and my 18th birthday? No. No one even tried to stick up for me all this time. I'm just the other kid while my sister gets everything. I didn't even get to have any of my friends there because my parents stopped letting me invite them after they tried to voice their opinions over my sister getting to blow out my candles. There are 365 days a year, and was it so bad to want one that was about me and not her? Instead, I'm treated like the greedy, entitled brat for wanting my own birthday. Then I just went back to ugly crying. My father came outside by that point to yell at me for making such a huge scene because my mother was also crying and my sister was upset because I ruined her moment. And now everybody in there who saw that thinks that we're bad parents. I ended up yelling at him that they are bad parents and they should know exactly why. Well, after I said that, the rest of my family descended on him like a pack of wolves. Better late than ever, I suppose. But I'd never seen anything like it before. My father was practically backed up right up against the restaurant front door, and then most of them flooded invited back inside with him to have it out with my mum too. My grandparents stayed with me and apologised for having their eyes shut so tight for so long. I don't know what was said to my parents in the restaurant, but it was roughly a half hour before they came back, and when they did, they looked incredibly defeated. They both awkwardly apologised for what they did and then offered to redo the party elsewhere, but that wasn't really enough for everyone. One of my uncles ahmed rather loud, and my parents said they'd never make me let my sister blow out my candles again, or give her presents on my birthday, or make any part of it about her. There was another and my parents also apologised for getting a cake that was obviously not meant for me, and that they just felt like I wasn't worried about cake anymore at my age. Oh boy, was that the wrong thing to say. I became furious all over again, and I yelled at them that my age was irrelevant. They'd literally given my birthday to my sister, and they had no good reason as to why, and they knew it. And then I said there's no point redoing the party because it's too damn late. They clearly showed that I mean nothing to them. They ruined 8 years of my life until I became an adult. What future birthdays with them could I possibly look forward to? Well, my father started to get angry at me for saying that, but when the entire family yelled at him, he shut up. My grandfather told him I'm exactly right, and there's no possible way that they can undo the damage done now. He said my parents were awful people, played favourites, and treated me like a black sheep ever since my sister was born. And what's more is they were all awful themselves because they just let it happen too. And I'm owed far more than an apology. I was owed my life back. My mum broke down again and tried to come closer to me while crying my name and apologising, but I refused to let her anywhere near me, and half the family body blocked her from getting close to me. I just said I couldn't take this anymore, and I started to walk away. One of my aunts chased me down and brought me back. I could hear multiple family members yelling and cussing at my parents over what happened, but I was so upset I couldn't even feel happy for any bit of justice after all this time. Also, where was my sister when all this was going on? She was still in the restaurant all by herself, eating cake and ripping open presents that were there for me. And if anyone was wondering, yeah, my parents served her some cake after I cried and walked out. You'd think that doing that wouldn't be their primary focus in the moment, but they were called out on it later. My grandparents got me to calm down and sit in their old minivan while everybody else left the party. My sister threw a huge tantrum after being caught opening my presents, one of which was a brand new smartphone that she threw against the wall and broke because she wasn't allowed to keep it. She literally just got a brand new phone on her birthday a few months earlier. I ended up being so upset that I was just ranting that I never wanted to celebrate my birthday again, and my grandparents let me stay the night over at their house. When I came home, I still didn't speak to my parents. My mother just kept crying because I wouldn't talk to her, and my father was as closed-mouthed as me. The following weekend, my grandparents convinced me to go with them out to dinner, and when we got there, I was surprised to find a whole new party waiting for me. My parents were there, and they kept up with having their don't hate us smiles on their faces almost the whole time. There was a big chocolate cake, and it had 18 candles on it, and there was a banner that had my name on it. They called it my happy belated birthday graduation party because I didn't really get either this year. I did kind of have to pretend to be happy. One good party doesn't undo 8 years of favoritism, or even make a dent in it really. And where was my sister? She was sitting at the table with her arms folded and her lip curled because it wasn't all about her like it used to be. And rather than sing happy birthday for me, they just sang an altered version called Happy Day. And then as soon as I blew out the candles, my sister screamed. I mean like an ear-bleedingly loud little girl scream. My parents had to rush her out and then bring her back in later looking more upset than ever. She quietly pouted in her seat for the rest of the party. I did still get a new smartphone as well, and my sister got hers taken away, among other things for what she did at the prior party. But the smartphone wasn't all. The whole family chipped in and they got me a car. It was just an old white Volvo, but I loved it the moment I laid my eyes on it. My grandfather knows a thing or two about cars and fixed it up himself. I was so happy, but my sister was clearly not, because she let out another one of those screams. She started having a massive tantrum and demanding a car too. My mum had to take her into the bathroom and they didn't come back out for a while. My father just went back to looking defeated. My sister had effectively ruined their attempt at trying to look good in front of the whole family. Multiple family members also had strong words for my parents that my sister was acting that way because they raised her to be a princess spoilt brat. I obviously started driving the car around right away, but only days later my sister actually vandalized the car by taking a hammer and breaking two of the side mirrors and cracking the windshield to the point where it was undrivable. My parents managed to stop her before she did any more damage, but she screamed bloody murder when they grabbed her and took the hammer away, then tried to bite them. Everyone was furious with my sister, especially my grandparents, because my grandfather had put so much work into that car and my sister ruined it while having a massive tantrum. My parents had spoiled my sister so bad that she couldn't mentally comprehend that I could have something and she couldn't, and several other family members laid into my parents about how they were setting my sister up for failure by making her an entitled brat that expects the world to be given to her, and she's going to have a terrible adult life because they won't put their feet down and teach her some respect. Well, her actions didn't go unpunished. My sister was grounded for the rest of the summer, and effective of the new school year was sent to boarding school. My mother cried like a baby about it too, but my father had to be adamant that it was the only way to start undoing the damage they'd done. Yes, they fully acknowledged they're at fault. It was kind of hard for them not to, since no one sided with them at all. My sister is absolutely miserable at that school. She hates the clothes and she hates the rules, and she's been lying almost constantly. But with cameras almost everywhere now, she's not getting away with any of it. Our parents tried to visit her a few times, but she just screamed at them for putting her in that place. From what I hear, this might be her school life until she's 18 years old. My parents did pay to fix my car. They had an auto glass company replace the window and the windshield, and it looks just as it did before. In August, my grandfather came to me and said that if I was interested, he found me a job working for a friend, but it was 40 miles away, so I'd need to move out of my parents' house unless I wanted that commute. I was all for moving. Finding a first apartment wasn't so easy though. I had to get approved for a credit card just to get accepted for a studio, but I got it, and I've been living where I am now since September. My parents keep trying to contact me, but I rarely speak to them. Anytime we do speak, I just feel awkward and uncomfortable. My grandfather has suggested that they simply don't want to acknowledge how badly they failed as parents, and trying to get me to forgive them will make them feel better about themselves or something like that. But I'm not going to forgive, not anytime soon. I'm finally happy and away from them, and they've got nothing. They don't have me, they don't have my sister, and my parents had to take more hours at work because boarding school for my sister is not cheap, nor can I imagine was the party they had to throw for me, or the repairs to my car. Empty house, angry relatives, and the only thing they have left is their work. Feels like incredible misery to me, and I don't take delight in it, but it is the result of their own actions after all. Well, that was wild. Yeah, the top comment, my friend, your story made me so angry and sad and then absolutely joyful for you. You didn't deserve to be treated like that. I hope you know that your parents, sister, and family, until they saw the light, were 100% in the wrong, and good on you for getting away from those people. Your parents don't deserve to have you close to them. You've set boundaries that are more than reasonable given all you've been through. I admire you and I wish you well. Yeah, 100%, and I'm pretty sure we all know what time it is. Entitled stepmother wants me to stop breastfeeding. So, context here, I'm female 28 and had a daughter, Ida, 3 months ago. My wife, female 35, Taylor. My stepmother, Mary, 45, and stepbrother, Tom, 11. Tom and I weren't close until I was pregnant. During the pregnancy, he became really interested in me and the baby, and actually quite clingy and needy on me. I felt weird, but when I tried to retreat, Mary and my dad said I was being cruel and miserable, and I had the chance to be a good sister, but I was being selfish and rejecting him. Along with the pregnancy hormones, it made me feel guilty, so I let him still come around a lot. Taylor has a chilled attitude, so she just kept calm and told me that she wants what I want. Even though he's become resentful of her, I made it clear that she was my wife, and any disrespect to her would mean that he had to leave. He became focused on my bump and was touching it all the time. Mary thinks that he's autistic, but no doctor has ever diagnosed him. I had Ida 3 months ago, and she's the best baby ever. She's so perfect, and I've loved seeing my wife become a mother. She's a natural at it, and it's deepened our love for each other. I've decided to breastfeed and then pump so Taylor can use the bottle to feed as well. It's been going pretty smooth, and honestly, it's something that allows us to bond with Ida. Often Taylor will lay with me while I breastfeed, and we will spend time together with Ida sleeping on my chest. Apparently, Tom was very angry when he wasn't allowed into the hospital to see me or the baby, and he kicked off when we said that only my mum and mother-in-law were allowed over until 2 weeks postpartum. When they did come over, he kept touching Ida's face, even though we'd asked him not to, as we're both in the medical profession, so don't want to expose our newborn to germs. When we had to get firm, Mary told us that we were being horrible to a child and needed to stop. I had to feed, so I went to the nursery, but he had followed, and when I started feeding, he came in and watched before I even realised, and when I started feeding, he came in and watched before I even realised he was there, and he stared, asking questions about breastfeeding, but he's been watching me feed whenever he comes over when I don't realise, and then whenever he's been near me, he started saying booby and reaching for my boobs and saying that he wants to try, and it's unfair, only Ida gets it. We've tried to remind him that he's a big boy and she's only a baby, but then last week I woke up from a post-feeding nap to find him on top of me with his hands and face on my chest area. When we tried telling Mary and my dad that this was getting out of hand, she said that we were discriminating against his autism, and we just didn't understand that I was his special person that he focused on, and I should be honoured. I told her it had to stop as I was uncomfortable, and Mary said if I wanted him to stop, I would have to stop breastfeeding as it was cruel to tease him with it. This is stupid, right? My boobs did get significantly bigger during my pregnancy and have stayed that way after giving birth, so I could see how he would notice them, but it still feels wrong. Edit for context, we don't live with them. I had a traumatic birth where my planned C-section turned into an emergency one with me nearly losing all of my blood and having to have a transfusion. This has caused me a lot of emotional distress and confusion postpartum, which has made it easier for stepmom to guilt trip me. Taylor's a great wife and mother, however, she's also a doctor, so work is busy, and she has had to carry on working after the first 3 weeks post-birth. Yeah, the top comment, this made my skin crawl. Even if he is autistic, they need to teach him boundaries. You have every right to be weirded out by this. Yeah, 1000%. It sounds like they've been super understanding and super patient as well, but there's no excuse for something like this. And the stuff that the mum was saying was gross. Like, yeah, it's completely fine to feel like this isn't okay. Yeah, has to learn boundaries, and the parents need to make sure they get that across ASAP, because otherwise they're going to grow up and feel like they can do this to anyone, and that's definitely not how it should be. My parents don't like my boyfriend, so they gave me an ultimatum. I'm looking for experience and opinions. All are welcome. I'll try to make a long story short. I'm an only child, and my current boyfriend and I have been dating for 6 years, starting when I was 19 and he was 20. We met at junior college where we started dating, and after that we went to different UCs, but within an hour of each other. My parents met him early on by joining us at dinner. Everything seemed to go well, and then soon after we went to his parents' house, who live about 2 hours from my parents, so I could meet his family. And after learning this, my mum told me how hurt she was that we didn't come to see them too. I expressed that this weekend was for me to meet his family, but it was clear that she felt almost betrayed. Fast forward, my parents invite me up to our cabin and my boyfriend joins. We take my car because it was already loaded with laundry, etc. After we arrive, my dad pulls me aside and pretty much quietly yells at me about how wrong it is that I drove and that we took my car. He's the man, he should be driving, blah blah blah. This started everything going forward on our sour note. The cabin is in Tahoe. It gets cold in the winter, so my boyfriend wore a sweatshirt with his hood up during some of the time at the cabin. My parents to this day cite this as weird and rude, as well as a reason they don't like him. As we continue our relationship, it's clear that my parents don't like him, but they can't really give up what I would call good or justifiable reasons. They'll say that he's just not a good fit for the family. They don't tell me to stop dating him because they can't, I'm an adult, but they do tell me that I need to keep them and him separate. They don't want to really hear about him, and he's not welcome at their house or cabin. He's never cheated on me or abused me. He has no drug problems, etc. Nothing that a normal parent would cite as a problem. Eventually it became an ultimatum given to me by my parents. They'd tell me that if you continue to date him, eventually it'll be either him or us and you'll have to choose. They would tell me that he'd never be an attorney, which is what he wanted to do, and insinuating that he probably wouldn't be much of anything at all. Oh my god, they sound awful. After undergrad, I started working at a financial firm. He graduated from undergrad at UC Berkeley and was accepted to law school across the country. We were always super serious about each other until he graduated and moved back to California. My boyfriend has since graduated from law school, moved home and took the bar last month. Now, 6 years into our relationship, I call my parents and I tell them that we're going to be moving in together. About 20 minutes later, I get a message from my mum saying that she doesn't want to rain on my parade, but this path excludes her and my dad from my future, that they would love me, but they can't be in my life if I choose to be with my boyfriend. Why? I told them I would never understand. Since then, they've sent me more and more messages saying stuff like, we feel like we're losing our daughter, this is heartbreaking, etc. And all at the same time including that this is my choice and my fault. Yeah, how dare they? I texted my parents that I thought my boyfriend and I should come over and talk, that texting about this kind of thing is stupid, but not to be patronized or belittled. My parents then replied that they want to see me face to face, but my boyfriend isn't allowed? Why? What have they done? My boyfriend even called my father the night of the initial "we can't be part of your life" text to try and talk or meet up and see if there was a way to talk through any legitimate concerns. My dad didn't answer and responded until a week plus later, only to text him that they haven't really ever liked him, that he wants to work through it with me alone, and it's mine and my boyfriend's fault for not trying to address things earlier, among other ridiculous reasons to not like my boyfriend. Berkeley isn't a man's college, my dad said, while making up issues that don't exist. One time in college, my professor lost my final exam, and when I found out via my final grades and was frantically calling her to figure out what happened, my parents told my boyfriend, see, this is why we didn't want her to have a boyfriend in college. They've found ways to blame him for everything. The only thing that ever had any merit was that he wasn't working yet. This was because he was going to school to be a lawyer. Apparently marrying someone who will make a lot of money is a bad thing. My boyfriend is the nicest, most calm and peaceful person ever, and he loves me more than anything. But but apparently their pride is more important than being wrong and accepting him. I guess I'm just trying to figure out if this is normal, or if it's as wrong as it feels to my boyfriend and I. Boyfriend as well as my parents and myself are all of the same race, somewhat similar financial status as well. No important details left out, I promise. I wanted objective feedback. Believe me, if there was more, my parents would make it known to me and I would have included it in the post. Yeah, I don't think this is normal, and it shouldn't be if it is. They're treating them awfully. Like, this is revolting behavior. The top comment says, 1, this is not normal. 2, the unreasonable ones here are your parents. I've dealt with this kind of BS on your boyfriend's end. My bet, there's nothing that your boyfriend can do to make your parents like him, because they'd have a problem with anyone you dated, because you dating and having a totally normal, healthy progression into adulthood and having a relationship means that they get to have less influence in your life. Your parents are doing you a favor here. If they want this to be their hill that they die on, let them die there. Yeah, 1,000,000%. They're gonna do this to anybody. They obviously want influence, they obviously want control, and I feel like they're upset because they're getting less and less of that. Oh my god, yeah, not only unreasonable, but also super immature. Like, unbelievably immature. What makes people with small children so entitled? I'm spending time on a Sunday in a beautiful aquarium. I bought a ticket in advance. I arrived at opening to bypass some crowds, and I was very much looking forward to 1 to 2 hours wandering around looking at everything. So far, this venue has staggered entry. During my slot, I walked up and I took place in the queue. A family that had 3 children ran up, filtered around me, and began speaking literally over my head. I was crowded in and ended up backing out so they got my place in line. I keep being banged by strollers. To be fair, it's dimly lit inside, but I feel like you know when you've hit someone. You could pause for a moment and say sorry. In the cafe, a lady let go of a stroller so loaded it immediately toppled into me, and so I spilled my coffee everywhere. I was so conscious not to get hot liquid on her child. She didn't even pause to check if I was alright, or offer to buy me a replacement. One child is in the corner drumming their fists along the glass. That's not okay. If they have difficulties, I respect not all behavior is predictable or preventable, but they're stressing out the animals. If they can't be brought around, they need to be away from the glass. It's a Sunday, so it's super busy. There's people in the gift shop having their infant children read aloud all the ice cream flavors and count out the money coin by coin, whilst loudly saying, "Oh, I'm sure no one minds. It's so cute." I mind. The final straw which drove me to make this post is when a family encouraged their young knee-height children to push through the throngs of people around the glass, and the mother said, "This is a venue for children. I don't even know why those other people are here. We're at one of the top-rated aquariums in the world. I feel like everyone has a right to be here. You chose to have children. It doesn't make you magically more important than everyone else." Yeah, that's so frustrating to even read about, let alone being you and experiencing it. Yeah, I don't understand how people can be so entitled. It almost doesn't make any sense. Definitely unbelievable. Entitled aunt demands I give my watch to my spoiled cousin and slaps me when I won't give it to her. I'm male 24, have an aunt female 45 who has 2 daughters, female 18 and female 16. We'll call them EA, entitled aunt, GU, good uncle, male 49, GC, good cousin, female 16, and EC, entitled cousin, female 18. Entitled cousin's birthday in early January, and since they, EA, GU, EC, and GC, live 3 hours away from me, I decided to visit them for their birthday. Now, there's one thing to note about entitled cousin. She's never been told no by entitled aunt whenever she wanted anything. She's as spoiled as an 18-year-old can get. On the other hand, good cousin has always been more grateful for what she had. Unlike her sister, good cousin never asked for expensive phones or necklaces and weekly manicure like entitled cousin does. When my father's male 44 dad passed away, I inherited from him an old Rolex watch with a leather strap, which I always wear to remember him, as my relationship with him was very close when he was alive. On entitled cousin's birthday, I gave her a silver necklace as a gift, which she didn't even thank me for, but that was expected from her, so I didn't mind it. They received an iPhone 14 Pro Max from entitled aunt and good uncle, which made her yell out of joy. The cake entitled aunt ordered was with dark chocolate and raspberry glaze, and a huge white happy birthday entitled cousin on it, which was honestly the best part of the whole birthday party. Later that day, entitled cousin noticed my watch, and the following conversation followed. Sorry if it doesn't sound right, I had to translate it from Romanian to English. Entitled cousin: "Hey, thank you for the necklace." "Oh, you're welcome. I thought you weren't going to thank me for it." "No, of course I would, but I noticed the watch you had." "Yeah, it was given to me after my grandpa died." "Grandpa died? When?" She thought I was talking about entitled aunts and my mum's father, which is alive. No, my dad's father." "Oh, sorry, I didn't know he died." "Yeah, and I miss him a lot. So he gave you a really nice watch, didn't he? Me knowing where this is going, yeah, he did. Why? Well, I was just wondering if I could give you back the necklace in exchange for the watch. What do you think? Are you joking? No, this is more than a watch to me. I can't just give it to you. Entitled aunt who overheard our conversation joined in. Oh, come on. You know how much entitled cousin likes watches. Plus it would fit her so nicely. Oh my god, stay out of this. This is not for you to decide. Me? I said no. Now excuse me, I'm going to the bathroom. Entitled aunt. Okay, but first give us the watch and then you're free to go. Me? Sorry, what? You heard me. Give me the watch. Okay, I'm hoping this isn't real, but it probably is. Me? I already told you no. Now please leave me alone or else I'm taking her necklace back. Entitled aunt. Fine, but I'll let your mother know of how rude you were to us. You think not giving somebody a beautiful watch that your family member passed down to you, you think not giving that to somebody else because they asked you is rude? Have you lost your mind? Entitled cousin. But mummy, I want that watch. Now keep in mind, she was an 18-year-old crying about not getting an expensive watch for free. Entitled aunt. See what you did? You made them mad. God will not forgive you for your actions. Proceeds to slap me across the face. I went straight to good uncle after that and I told him what happened. So he went to them. Good uncle. What the hell are you doing? Entitled aunt. What do you mean? They're being rude to my baby. Good uncle. She's an adult for God's sake. Why do you keep acting like she's a toddler? Entitled aunt. You're taking sides. Good uncle. No, I'm not. Why in the hell would you slap him? Entitled aunt. Because that's what brats like him deserve. Good uncle. Alright, that's enough. If I see you bothering them one more time, the party is over. After that, entitled aunt left me alone, but entitled cousin started crying and yelling about wanting the watch, which good uncle quickly made her shut up about. For the rest of the party, entitled aunt gave me death glares whenever I was around, but good uncle kept her and entitled cousin shut. That night, good cousin apologized to me for her sister's behavior, but I told her it isn't her fault. The next day, I woke up earlier than others, I packed my bags and I took the earliest minibus back home. I sent them a text saying that I had to get home early to work, and I left it at that. My mum called me later that day asking why did I argue with entitled aunt, and I told her the whole story. She just started laughing and told me that she'll talk to entitled aunt about it. I haven't heard from entitled aunt or family since, but I recently texted good cousin happy birthday on her birthday and she thanked me. I can't believe they slapped you. How did they ever think they could do that? So gross. It sounds like they were super mature about it as well. That's so awful. I'm genuinely in shock. Like, how can somebody be like this? Lady, I told you your kids weren't old enough for this class, so don't blame me when they get hurt. Hi, first time posting here, but boy do I have some stories. Also, sorry for the long post. I tend to give too many details. I work as an instructor teaching parkour and free running basics to small kids, ages 2 to 6, and most of my classes are in private institutions like schools or specialized gyms. Now, I say basics, but it is really more bodily control and perception than bona fide parkour, since they're really young. I separate kids based on age and skill into different classes, which challenge them accordingly, having the older kids dip their toes into actual parkour and free running skills. Now, onto the story. I had this mother, hence the entitled mum, of 2 kids, entitled kid 1 and entitled kid 2, ages 2 and 3 respectively, come for a test class to see if their kids are interested. The kids enjoy the class since I try to make them both challenging and fun by playing games where they have to traverse obstacle courses, and I try to set up scenarios for them to use their imagination, such as the pirate ship is sinking, we have to jump onto the lifeboats, etc. The administration later lets me know they enrolled and all is well. Now, something you have to know about my classes is that even though they're taught in a special order-made room, and I make sure that most surfaces are padded and am super paranoid about any accidents, so I do my best to keep a private environment, sometimes kids can take a fall, especially if they aren't following instructions or they throw tantrums. This was the case with entitled kid 1 and 2, since they were always refusing to listen to instructions and threw tantrums when I tried to explain why they couldn't just run off to play in the room, as if it was just a playground, which it absolutely isn't. After a couple of weeks of this, entitled mum comes into my classroom to tell me, not ask mind you, that her kids are ready for the advanced class, which is kids between 5 and 6, because they've grown bored of the kiddie class since they're so much better than the other kids. They are not. I politely let her know that although they are indeed pretty active kids, they first have to become responsible for their actions since they tend to push kids around and not listen to instructions, and therefore they're not ready since the older kids class is way tougher and I can't just follow 2 kids around to take care of them and neglect the rest of the class since there could be an accident. Now, these are not in any way big groups. I only take groups of 5 kids at most since it's all I can handle on my own to make sure every kid is as safe as possible, but having to take care of underage kids and leaving other 3 kids unattended is a big no-no in my book. Anyway, entitled mum doesn't seem to take my words very kindly, but accepts my decision, or so I thought. Next week, I come in to have the receptionist tell me that entitled mum had basically thrown a tantrum to have her kids go into the advanced class anyway, despite my warnings, and asked me if I can just let it slide this time. Obviously, I'm not okay with this, as it endangers not only entitled kids, but other kids as well. But I can see her storming into my classroom again, angrier this time if I say no, so I asked the front desk to have her sign an additional waiver to the one that she already had to sign when enrolling the kids. The day comes when I have to teach the advanced class, and in comes marching with a smug grin, none other than entitled mum and entitled kids. I welcome them and I start my class, which as I said is way more demanding and has some actual parkour techniques sprinkled in. It would be unfair to the age appropriate kids to downplay the class just because these entitled kids enrolled, so I don't. However, I keep a close eye on them to avoid any issues. That day, the kids had to clear a small gap jump and latch onto an edge of a wall and shimmy along while hanging. Picture hanging movement in Assassin's Creed. Everything but the floor is padded, of course. However, it is a substantial fall for kids that age, about 1.5 meters. As I'm helping one of the older kids shimmy along, I see the next in line to make the jump is the elder of the entitled siblings, and I ask her to wait for me so that I can spot her jump in case her hands slip or she doesn't clear the gap. She starts throwing a tantrum about how she's a big girl now and she can do it on her own, to which I respond to just to let me be there to make sure that she doesn't get hurt. I run back to her after helping the other kid reach the ground, and I help her reach the wall since she couldn't clear the gap, to which she goes absolutely mad and storms out of the classroom. 5 minutes later, she comes back with entitled mum, demanding that I let her jump on my own. I once again explain why that's a bad idea, and we run the circuit again. Again, I'm helping the kid lapping before her, and I ask her to wait for me, but instead of listening, she jumps into the wall, fails to clear the gap, crashes into the wall face first, and then plops onto the ground, knocking the wind out of her. I rush to check if she's unhurt, which thankfully she is aside from the fall, and she starts swiping at me, and once she recovers, starts bawling her eyes out and storms out of the classroom again. Once again, I'm faced with the entitled mum demanding to know why I let her daughter get hurt during my class, and starts accusing me of being negligent and incompetent, and that she'll take measures against the school and me. Oh, get out of here. I tell her I understand that she's upset, but I asked the kid to stay still and wait for me, but she refused to listen, and to remember that I warned her that they weren't ready for this class, as they didn't follow instructions which were meant to keep them safe. Entitled mum keeps going on about how I can expect to be fired soon, and the usual entitled parent monologue, and then leaves. I tell the front desk what just happened, and I ask them to check the cameras in my classroom so that they can have proof in case she really tries something legally, and reminded them that she had signed a second waiver. Thankfully, she never did, and she never came back, even though she paid the whole month in advance. Wow, that's so awful as well. So not only do the kids think that if they have a tantrum, they can get anything they want, but their adult mum does as well. That's so sad. Gender reveal party where soon-to-be mum thinks she's entitled to a boy. I went to the worst gender reveal party with the soon-to-be mum that thinks she's entitled to a boy. I'm still shocked, and I'm so angry thinking about what her baby's gonna have to go through. When she found out she was having a girl, she literally began sobbing, and when her boyfriend tried to comfort her, she told him not to touch her, and she stormed away. When she came back, she was trying not to cry and kept saying she didn't want to think about it or else she'd cry more. She later made a remark about how there's nothing that she can do because she's stuck with it now. I get if you want a boy or a girl, but if you feel that strongly about it, then you shouldn't even have a public gender reveal party. Also, it's insane that she's so upset that she couldn't hold it together. Also, she referred to her baby as it after finding out it's a girl. Does she hate girls that much? My hands are shaking. I feel so bad for that baby girl. Yeah, oh my god, that's bloody awful and so embarrassing as well. Imagine going to a family member's gender reveal party and then bawling their eyes out because they're having a girl. That's so gross. And yeah, like they said, it's totally fine if they want to have a boy, but to have a reaction like this is so unhealthy. Yeah, wow, that's awful. We're off to a rough start. My parents forced me to be successful in order to take care of my sick brother. This actually happened a long time ago. My parents have 3 sons and I'm the oldest. I've always been an above average student, a good boy, etc. My medium brother is a disaster. He's in jail. My youngest brother was born with a disability and he'll never be able to manage his own life. From ages 16 to 22 approximately, my parents always told me that I'd have to take care of my little brother when they die. Now, I understand that the state will take care of him. However, today during a therapy session, I told my group why I was so scared of talking to my parents again, and the therapist told me that my parents were wrong to put such a burden on my shoulders. I've never realized realized that before. For some context, I live in a country where social security granted by the state is very good. I know that when my brother grows up, he'll be taken care of by people who get paid to do so. I didn't know that as a kid. Of course, I'll still be in contact with him, call him regularly, go for walks together and stuff. That therapy session was actually part of my rehab program. I'm there because I'm unable to take care of myself. I've been diagnosed with depression and alcoholism. I'm not able to take care of another person, especially a disabled person in my condition. I've taken my brother out of the sea while he had an epileptic seizure. I've made tournaments to get money for research on his disease. I've worked as a lot of things as a volunteer in the event that my parents organised for research. I've spent countless days taking care of him while my parents went camping or needed a break while my friends were doing teenage stuff. I've spent several nights at the hospital as a kid, unsure if my brother was going to survive that night. I've translated a lot of medical related documents to French and English for sharing the research progress with other foundations around the world, all while having to graduate school or university. Longest example coming to mind is 90-page research progress summary, had to be translated in less than 2 months. I can even describe to you what are the incorrect pieces of DNA in my brother's body and the process that causes his brain to work improperly. While I have no idea about my own disease, multiple sclerosis, I've learned to type using special characters for mentally challenged people in order to teach stuff to my brother. I've battled a clown with wooden swords in a stage in a race awareness event, an event my parents took me to only because I'm the only person in the family able to speak fluently the language that the event was in. In exchange, my parents gave me no attention as a kid because I was already the good one until I stopped getting A grades in university. There, they started pressing me until I had to leave home because my dad wouldn't allow me to have any free time. While I was away, I tried meeting my brother as many times as I could, even if it meant meeting my parents and their hurtful comments too. Some months ago, living in a big city, I called my mum and she made me want to jump into the metro railway just as the metro was approaching. After I got diagnosed with depression and the doctors recommended me go to rehab, my extended family and some friends helped me and supported me. However, my parents opposed that because I would be quote unquote wasting 2 years. Wow, that's so awful. Yeah, like the top comment says, yeah, your parents were cruel to just tell you that your brother will be your responsibility when they die. There was enough time and still is for them to get insurances and savings in place to provide his care after they're gone. Sheltered homes exist, so do government homes for the disabled or mentally handicapped. To put all that pressure onto young shoulders is ridiculously uncaring to you. As a mother of a special needs child and a neurodivergent child, I'm utterly disgusted by your parents. Yeah, 1000%, that's so bad. And yeah, you shouldn't have to carry that pressure. My mum is demanding money in anticipation of my book release. So, my parents have demanded money from any income I've had most of my life. When I was 12, I had a paper route that I never saw $1 from. And when I was older, I constantly had to give or loan money to them, and even used an entire paycheck to help cover rent more than once. I always assumed it was both, but after my parents split up, my dad stopped asking for money and my mum didn't, so it was obvious that she was the one always pushing for it. I love my mum, don't get me wrong, she did a lot right with raising me and my siblings, and as much as it sucked to keep giving up my own money, I felt that I had to pay her back for everything that she did. Misguided, I know, but after my parents split up, she completely went off the deep end. She started doing heavy drugs and constantly going out to see men. I tried not to judge her, but it all came to a head when I brought my sons over for a family Thanksgiving years ago, and she literally spent the entire day in her room with 2 guys, getting a tattoo that I never saw. Now she has no stable home, claims to be going to rehab every few months, and has a new boyfriend every time I hear an update from her. She never makes any effort or time to see me or my family, including my 7-year-old son that she's never even met. So I'm almost done writing a book. It's nothing spectacular, but I'm proud of it and some people might even like it. I've been posting on Facebook to my friends and family for people to help me review it and give me their thoughts, a process that has taken a couple of years, and to no one's surprise, she's done nothing to help with it. I plan to publish soon, and so I get a message from her out of the blue saying, with the money you get from your book, you can help me make sure that I have a great Christmas with me and my boyfriend's kids. I've shrugged off similar stuff from her in the past, but this one really set me off. All I said was no, any money I make goes to my family, but I wanted to say so much more. She's still in contact with my siblings, so I don't want to upset her and cause more family drama. What I wanted to say was I'm an amateur author doing their first book. This won't make much if anything at all, and on the off chance I hit the proverbial lottery and people like it much more than I'm expecting, I still won't give you a cent. My wife deserves help bringing in money for our family, my kids deserve a good education, and I have friends that say sup every couple of weeks and ask about my children more than you do, that I'd definitely give money to before you. So F you, and F your boyfriend, and F his kids that you care about more than your own grandchildren. I just wanted to get that off my chest. Thank you. Yeah, she can't keep thinking that she can do stuff like this. Like, yeah, puts in absolutely no effort, pretty much contributes nothing to you, and feels entitled to your money. Yeah, no, definitely not. My mother disowned me, 26 female, for getting a tattoo. My entitled mum has always been quite controlling about my appearance. Even as a teen, I was kicked out of home briefly for cutting my hair. I cut maybe 3 inches. It was still very long. She does tend to overreact to small things that she can't control. Yeah, oh my god, sounds like it. I've wanted a tattoo for the longest time, and I was really set on a certain design that I had thought about for years, but my mum always told me that she'd kick me out of home if I got tattooed. 2 years ago, I purchased my own home and I live by myself, but I still see my family at least once a week for a family dinner. At family dinner a few months ago, I asked if she would seriously disown me if I got tattooed, and she said no, that she was just joking around. I finally bit the bullet and I got the design I wanted. Super excited with my new piece of art. I sent through a picture and it's been radio silence ever since. My brother let me know that she's been screaming, slamming stuff, saying hurtful things, stuff like I look cheap and nasty and that she has no daughter. I attempted to come to family dinner recently and she locked herself in her bedroom and wouldn't even talk to me. She was also invited to my godson's first birthday party and didn't show up simply because I was there. It's come to the point that she's threatening my dad with divorce simply because he and my brother haven't sided with her. Yeah, I wonder why. He also hasn't spoken with me though. She's always made me feel like I don't get a say in my own body, but I thought that'd end once I was 18 plus and moved out of home. Oh, that's terrible. And yeah, 100%, you should not feel bad. That's unhinged behavior. You should be able to get a tattoo and still have a mum that loves you and isn't disowning you over something so stupid, and they're throwing a tantrum because you got a tattoo. The top comment says, it's not your fault at all. Bottom line is she needs professional help to sort through whatever she's mentally dealing with. To go that unhinged because your adult daughter got a tattoo is indicative of a much deeper problem that she just projects onto you. My mum, for example, projected all of her childhood traumas onto me when I turned 18 and started going in my own direction. It's tough. The important thing is to remember it's not your fault and maybe consider cutting ties for now until things change. The way she treats you is not okay. Yeah, definitely not okay. And yeah, that's right. They're just projecting something onto you. And yeah, no wonder the husband and the brother aren't siding with them because they're being awful and ridiculous. My parents don't support me in paying for my car, but then my dad uses it like it's his own. A few months back, I bought a used car. Because I pay for my own college, I pretty much used up 95% of what was in my bank account to pay for this car. It's in my name, I paid for the insurance, and I pay for its gas weekly. A few days ago, my car got broken into and the repairs totaled $4,000. I asked my parents for help and my dad said that it was my car and I had to deal with it, so I drained all of the money I had saved up and I used some scholarship money to pay for it. My dad had driven my car before. As much as I hate him, I have let him use it when his car was broken down, so he has its spare key, which I've tried very hard to find and steal back, but I haven't been able to. However, ever since my car was broken into and we went to different shops to get repair quotes, he took it without permission for repairs. Since then, he would start using it way more often. I would step outside to drive my car to get groceries, and my car wouldn't even be there. I confronted him about it, and he'd give me excuses such as taking it for a car wash, taking it for a checkup, it had its checkup, etc. But then it got really bad because for the past 2 weeks, he's taken it every single day that I don't have work. Even on days that I do work, he'll take it after I come home. I fought with him. I told him how we refused to pay a penny for it, and yet he's using it more than me, and how frustrating it is to always have my car missing. He told me he's allowed to use it because he's my dad, and that if I need it, I just need to tell him beforehand, like how he doesn't use it when I have work, and that there's no use in fighting him because he's my dad and he can do whatever he wants. Yeah, but dad, it's not your car, buddy. And the fact that they don't help you pay for the maintenance costs, even though it sounds like they're driving it pretty much the same as you, if not more, putting kilometers on it like every single day. Yeah, that's so bad. And like the top comment says, buy one of those steering wheel security locks, remove or disconnect something under the hood. But then, yeah, I suppose you'd have your dad arguing with you about this. The absolute audacity. My entitled mum went to extremes to ruin my childhood over one mistake. Hello, fellow Redditors. I've been lurking on this subreddit for a while, and I never thought I'd have a story to share here, but here I am needing to get this off my chest. Brace yourself, because this is a wild ride involving my entitled mum, who took things to a whole new level just because of one mistake I made as a child. Background, I'm now in my 20s, reflecting on a childhood that was tainted by my mum's entitled behavior. Back when I was around 10 years old, I made a mistake that kids sometimes do. I accidentally broke a vase in our living room while playing ball indoors. It was an honest mistake, but my mother's reaction situation was anything but reasonable. Instead of treating it as a learning opportunity or a chance to teach me about accidents, my mum unleashed a torrent of entitlement that would haunt me for years. She started berating me, calling me names, and then she did the unimaginable. She grounded me for a whopping 6 months. Yeah, you read that right, half a year for a broken vase. But wait, it gets worse. She didn't stop at just grounding me. She went on a rampage to ensure that my life was miserable during those 6 months. She barred me from seeing my friends, attending any extracurricular activities, and worst of all, she confiscated anything remotely enjoyable, my books and games and even my art supplies. It felt like a prison sentence for a mistake that any kid could have made. Yeah, I feel like most people have at least broken a vase or something. And yeah, it was an accident. She would hold this mistake over my head for years to come, using it to guilt trip me and control my actions. She'd bring it up in front of family and friends, painting me as some sort of delinquent, all over a simple accident. The psychological toll this took on me was immense, and I still find myself grappling with self-esteem issues because of her behavior. Looking back, it's obvious that my mum's entitlement and extreme measures weren't about teaching me a lesson or correcting my behavior. It was about her need for control and dominance, even at the expense of her own child's well-being. I'm sharing this story now to remind everyone that sometimes entitled parents can take things to an extreme that has lasting effects on their children. If you're dealing with a similar situation, remember that you're not alone. Don't let their entitlement define you or your worth. And to all the parents out there, please let's strive to teach our kids through understanding, compassion, and healthy discipline, rather than resorting to extreme measures that only breed resentment. Thank you for letting me vent, Reddit. Stay strong, everyone. Yeah, wow, how ridiculous. Almost everybody on the planet has done something like this. And yeah, that is not how you handle something like this. The top comment says, I kind of feel like you need to go back to her house now and drop a vase right in front of her. Yeah, definitely. Entitled dad tries to skip the queue at the emergency room. This one's long, sorry. For context, I, 26 female, live in a Northern European country with universal healthcare and free emergency care services. On Friday evening, I slipped walking back to my apartment. There's a short but steep gravel path with some larger rocks embedded in the ground at the entrance. It had rained that morning, so the ground was still damp. A man saw me slip backward and came to help me up. I hit my head fairly hard on the ground, but between the adrenaline and the embarrassment, it was mostly just my pride that was hurt. I got inside and I began taking my braids down, and I noticed my hair and head was damp, and I thought initially it was the leftover groundwater, but no, it was blood. A few moments later, I was seeing double and deducted that the fall was probably a lot worse than embarrassment from having a witness to my clumsiness. I head to the ER and I get my queue ticket number and sit down. By this point, I could feel the top of my unfortunately favorite shirt in the back getting wet. Every time I touched the back of my head, it came back red, like it was genuinely gushing. My neck was wet, my shoulders were wet, my hair was matted and red. I was wearing a hoodie zipped all the way up with the hood up. After about 20 minutes of waiting, a man came in speaking English with a son who was maybe 9 to 12. I'm very bad at guessing ages. The kid seemed chill, he was limping a little. The dad was very agitated and seemed annoyed with the large amount of people in the waiting area. I mean, come on, it's Friday evening in the summer. Of course the ER will have a longer wait as the queue numbers get ringed. There are some times that no one gets up. This happens often when people get tired of waiting and decide that their emergency isn't emergency-ish enough and they just leave. Every time this happens, the father would stand with his kid and go in and pretend it's their turn. The nurses actually check the queue tickets here, so they get turned back each time and they'd sit down again. I waited just under 1.5 hours before my queue ticket was called. I stood up and I started walking towards the nurse station when I heard a voice shout, "Hey, do you speak English?" "Yeah." "Could we go before you?" "Come on, he's just a kid." I'm not a monster, so I asked how injured is he. If he was genuinely in extreme pain, I'd let him go. He said, "He's limping, you're walking just fine, so you can't be more injured than him." I felt bad for the kid. He was visibly embarrassed and sort of mumbling, like, "Dad, stop, it's fine, we can wait." I almost scoffed at the "more injured than him" comment. I took down my hood, I unzipped my hoodie, I took it off and I turned my back to the waiting room, exposing my blood-soaked hair and upper back. There was a muffled gasp and one little girl let out a little shriek. I turned back around and asked if he still thought his son was still more injured than me. He started, "No, you should probably go on ahead." I didn't wait a moment longer and I was ushered into the room for stitches and concussion diagnosis. I can't say for sure whether or not they were tourists, but it's so annoying to think that they're tourists here and they feel entitled to step in front of the patiently waiting, well, patients. My biggest takeaway of the evening is that my favorite shirt is now ruined, so please comment your links to your favorite shirt so I can get multiple replacements. Yeah, that's so frustrating, and the bad thing is stuff like this would happen all the time, but at least when you did show them, they didn't continue to argue because that would have been way worse. But yeah, it's annoying that stuff like this would even happen in the first place. My father-in-law had a meltdown down because I proved he doesn't know his son. So me, 34 male, and my husband, 30 male, do our damnedest to not spend an abundance of time with my father-in-law. He's a cowardly narcissist who says hot dog unironically. Ever since I came into the picture almost 7 years ago, we've simply not meshed. A great deal of that is due to the fact that I've spent those years instilling confidence and boundary setting in my husband. Father-in-law does not like being told no. We got kicked out of a restaurant one time because he couldn't accept that they wouldn't give him a discount. So needless to say, our interactions are nothing more than the exchanging of fake pleasantries. So last week we're over there for our quarterly visit. The way these evenings typically go is that my husband occupies my father-in-law while my mother-in-law tests out her new English vocabulary on me. But this time my husband is going to do the bulk of the talking to both of them because he's excited about the new organization he's working with. Father-in-law keeps trying to change the subject because it's been 2 seconds since the subject of the conversation was about him. My husband and mother-in-law both snap. I'm not entirely sure what they said as my Spanish is still terrible, but it amounted to them telling father-in-law to shut the hell up and listen. Father-in-law gets obstinate and essentially tells my husband that no matter what the organization is, it'll never compare to the work that he did in his youth. Father-in-law literally just hiked through Central America with a white savior complex until things got violent and he came back home. My husband understandably storms out with my mother-in-law hot on his tail. Awkwardness ensues because I'm chuckling at father-in-law. Father-in-law, he never spoke to me like that until you came along. Me, yeah, I know, I'm so proud. Father-in-law, you've changed him. No, this is who he's always been. You just never noticed it before. Well, I know my son. Oh yeah? Well, what's his favorite color? What? What's his favorite color? It's the same one he had as a kid. Father-in-law, nothing. Me, name 2 of his interests. Father-in-law, they don't make any sense. Me, name them. Okay, here's an easy one. What's the name of the organization he's been working with? And father-in-law's got nothing. This wannabe Bob Ross granola eating mofo couldn't answer. My husband said the name of the organization like 5 times that night. You want to know the sad part? My parents can answer each and every one of those questions, and they've known your son a fraction of the time that you have, and cue the screeching in Spanish. Being yelled at in a foreign language by a non-native speaker is a surreal experience. Obviously, my husband comes in and yells back and it blows up even more, but the part that stands out is the fact that father-in-law still refused to admit that he just hadn't taken a genuine interest in my husband in years. Like, bruh, you don't even know your kid's favorite color? Hello? Now my husband is contemplating going no contact and I can't blame him. Yeah, wow, stuff like this is so sad. This comment, I say hot dog unironically. Groovy is another favorite. Are these red flags? That was too funny not to share. But yeah, that's awful and I hope it gets better. Okay, the next story is called You're Ruining My Body. I made it. It's mine. So this happened 2 years ago when I got my first tattoo. I was 21 and still living with my controlling mum. She was shocked when I told her I wanted to get a tattoo, but she didn't physically stop me. I got home with my upper arm tattooed, the solar system with watercolors, to find her in the living room crying. She started talking about how I ruined her body by getting that tattoo. What, like she owns your body or something? About how she made my body so it's hers. She asked if I cried while getting it. I told her I didn't because it didn't really hurt. She yelled at me, "Of course you cried." I cried because I knew what you were doing to my body. Wow, they were really hoping that they did cry. She calmed down after a while and said my tattoo looked nice, but I felt really gross after all that. She also flipped out when I got my hair cut. My sisters and I were always told that she'd sue any hairstylist who dared to cut our hair, so it took me until I was 19 to finally get a short haircut. Oh, and she also cried when I got my first piercing. This woman is nuts sometimes. A little edit. I don't know how my grandmother would feel about this whole thing. My mum cut contact with her before I was born because she was physically abusive towards my mum and my mum's siblings and my siblings. But yeah, for your mum to say that your body is her body is bloody ridiculous. I've never understood why parents get so upset when their kid gets a tattoo. Like, why? It's not a big deal. And yeah, for them to have a reaction like this is super concerning. The next story is called Couple Brought a Toddler with Squeaker Shoes to a Wedding. Wait a second, what are squeaker shoes? Oh, okay, so they genuinely make a sound. Yeah, that's an awful idea at a wedding. Some dear friends got married the other day, and it definitely was not a child-free wedding. And to the parents in attendance credit, the 2 toddlers were mostly very well behaved and as quiet as toddlers can be expected to be, except for the damn shoes. The point at which it came to a climax of how the hell did you think this was acceptable was during the after-dinner speeches. Parents and close friends delivered beautiful speeches. When I first met Jordan, squeak, they, squeak, were, squeak, in, squeak, the, squeak, college, squeak, cafe, squeak, week, Tyria, so literally like a SpongeBob episode. I just stared daggers at this couple. How on God's green earth did either of them think, yes, a wedding, get the shoes that have dog toy squeakers in them? People will definitely not hate us. Oh no, that's so bad. But yeah, that would have been so annoying. Surely they didn't realize they were wearing them or something? Like, did they always squeak, or can you turn it off? Because if they were squeaking the entire time, then yeah, there's no excuse. The only excuse is that they didn't know. But even still, that's so bad. The next story is called Parents Sit in My Seat Because She Had a Kid. I was boarding a flight from New York City to Toronto. I checked into the flight 24 hours in advance, as soon as it opened, because I need a window seat. When I got to my seat, there was a woman seated in my seat with a child, probably age 6 or 7. I told her that the seat that she was in was mine. I said it very politely since it could have been an honest mistake. She pointed at a seat a couple of rows away and told me that I can sit in her original seat, which was not a window seat. I told her I wanted a window seat, which is what I originally selected. She just looked at me and then looked at her kid and then at me without moving. I was about to ask her again for my chair back, but the man behind me overheard our conversation and offered me his window seat. I didn't want to cause more of a scene, so I accepted it, and he sat in the woman's original seat. If it was so important for her to sit beside her child, why did she not check in when it opened? When I checked in, there were multiple sets of 2 seats together, and she could have selected one. If it was me, I'd probably prepay for selected seats just to make sure. On top of that, she didn't even ask me if we could switch. She just assumed that I'd be okay with it. A part of me wishes I demanded my seat back. Like, get out of there. It's not your seat. There's no debating it. Get out of their seat. Nah, but yeah, I totally understand why they didn't want to cause a scene. I feel like people who do stuff like this want you to cause a scene. The bloody audacity. That's so rude. The next story is called My Father Wants to Reconnect with Me After 20 Years. My family gets mad at me when I refuse to talk to him. All the names I'll use are not the real names of these people. Cast: me, male 25, my sister Maria, female 21, our mother Anna, 44, and our father John, 45. For background, my parents met in their late teens and soon had me. 3 years later, they had my sister Maria. When my sister was 1 year old and I was 3 years old, my parents got separated. They never got married, all because my father cheated on my mum with a woman who's over 20 years older than him, from what I've been told, and they're still together now. Growing up, mum never told me or my sister too much about John. I know that both his parents and his sister pretty much disowned him after he cheated on my mum, but they're irrelevant to this story. Anna never got full custody for us after that because she didn't know how. Back then, she didn't know what full custody meant, but John still was sending Anna €200 a month for each of us until we became 18. I soon moved after turning 18 to live with a friend, and in 2021, I moved to another country where I currently live. After that, I only kept little contact with my mum and almost none with my sister. Fast forward to the 31st of August, so 3 days before this post is made, and on my birthday, I get a call from an unknown number. I pick up and the following conversation followed. Me, hello, John, is that you? Me, yeah, who's this? It's me, John. I'm sorry, but I don't think I know you. I'm your dad. I'm sorry, John, who are you? Me, why did you call me? John, it's your birthday, right? Yes, it is. Well, happy birthday. Me, again, why did you decide to call me now? Don't you have a new family? John, yes, I'm married now, but I have no other kids besides you and Maria. At this point, I was in disbelief, so I ended the call. I couldn't understand why he decided to call me after 20 years of no contact. He tried calling me again, but every time I ignored the call. The next day, Mum called me. Me, hello? Anna, why did you hang up on John? Me, Mum, are you serious? Anna, yes, he changed now. He wants to have a son and daughter again. Me, well, I guess it's just a bit too late, don't you think? Anna, stop being dumb and go talk to your father. Me, no, you go talk to him if you want to. I have nothing to talk about with that piece of crap. After I said that, I hung up on her also. Both my mum, her side of the family, and also my sister have been blowing up my phone daily. I already blocked some of them. He hurt us badly, and everyone deciding to forgive him out of nowhere for no apparent reason. Well, I'm not forgiving him. I'm thinking about cutting contact with the rest of my family if they keep defending him. A good father doesn't leave his children for 20 years and then out of nowhere decides that he's entitled to having a relationship with them. I'll keep you all updated on this, but for now, I'm going to be no contact with them for a while. Yeah, this decision is completely up to you. I don't know why your family members think that they can decide this. Like, if you don't want to have anything to do with them, you don't have to, and they need to respect that, especially when you have every reason in the world to have nothing to do with them. Like, yeah, they left you for 20 years, and now they want a relationship with you, or like something bad happened and they feel like they need you or something. Yeah, that's completely fair enough that you don't want that. The next story is called My Spoiled Cousin's Parents Think That Not Buying Their Kids Something Expensive is Rude. Sorry for any mistakes in this. I wrote this on a phone and English is not my main language. For starters, I, 23 female, have a 12-year-old cousin Valerie, fake name, who is quite spoiled and a brat. She's the type of kid that started wearing lashes and makeup and wearing crop tops and getting nails, etc. at a young age. She's often used to expensive things since her parents, aka my aunt and uncle, are rich. A week ago, her parents asked if I could look after her for 2 days since they had a business trip to go to. I didn't think much and I just said sure. On the second day, she asked if we could go to Sephora. I said yes, since I thought she'd get a lip gloss or something. When we get there, she's looking at the Dior backstage items. Now, Dior backstage makeup and perfumes are mad expensive, so I was thinking that she probably wasn't going to be asking for anything. A couple of minutes later, she asked me if she can get this perfume that's $100. I tell her that it's quite expensive and if she really wants it, she can get the mini one. She side-eyed me and put it away and didn't talk to me for the whole day. Oh my god, yeah, that might work on your parents, but that's not going to work on anybody else. Now, when her parents come to pick her up, she tells them about how I didn't get her that perfume that she wanted. Her parents started yelling at me for not buying it for her and saying that she's just a little girl. No, surely not. I yelled at them back saying that I offered to buy her a mini version and that she's just too spoiled. They soon left after that and soon word got spread around that I was being rude to Valerie, when literally all I did was not buy her an expensive, pretty useless perfume. My whole family basically sided with Valerie and her parents. I've been getting messages from my family saying I need to apologize for being so rude. I don't think I was being rude. This was probably the first time that Valerie hasn't been said yes to. Yeah, oh my god, they need more of this if anything. People are so unbelievable. Like, why would you raise your kid like this? They're raising them to think that they can get anything from anybody, and the fact that they got upset and they didn't talk to them for the rest of the day. Like, I know they're only 12, but yeah, that behavior is so gross. Parents like that don't make any sense. The next story is called My Parents Believe That We Should Travel 10 hours via flight to see them so they get to see their granddaughter. We live in New Zealand and my parents live in Singapore. This is the first grandchild in the family and she just turned 2 years old. My parents came to New Zealand once when she was 8 months old. They stayed for 6 weeks. They didn't enjoy the visit thoroughly as they prefer the weather in Singapore and they miss their type of food that's available back home too. They also find the 10-hour flight tiresome and would rather not do it too often. My husband is a teacher and they're expecting us to fly to Singapore during the summer holidays to spend a good 4 to 5 weeks with them so they get to see their granddaughter again. I've tried explaining that it's stressful for us to fly with a toddler and to have her entire routine and sleep schedule. She sleeps in a crib in her own room here, all disrupted, and we were nervous to do it. They emotionally blackmail us and they say if we don't come here, then my daughter won't know them and they won't get to spend time with her. Is it really my job to make sure that they get to see her? They're fully capable enough to fly to us, but they won't. Yeah, well, that's a bit much, isn't it? And yeah, them missing the food that they like is a lot less of a big deal than you having to pack everything up and disrupt everything with your 2-year-old. The next one is called Entitled Parent Getting Laughed at the Petting Zoo. So this just happened today at my work. I work at a petting zoo. There were 2 kids, 8 and 11, who came in and started terrorizing everyone here. They started saying every curse word under the sun to everyone and harassed my animals by running after them and kicking them. One of my colleagues was taking a phone call and the kids decided that she was a good target for some reason. This woman cannot take confrontation. They started walking into her while she was sitting down and screaming in her ears. Eventually she pushed them away and said, "Do you mind? I'm on a phone call." I wasn't present during the day, but my colleague came to me distressed about the kids. I went to them and I asked them again politely to leave. I asked them before, but they didn't leave. That was enough for the kids to stay out by the gate and scream and kick the fences. We told them to stop multiple times, but to no avail. Eventually they circled around and threw stuff, unknown what it actually was, to my goats and sheep. They came back around and started bad-mouthing us yet again. Another one of my colleagues went to them and asked them to cool down. The profanity that came out of their mouth just shocked me. How can such young kids have such a vocabulary? I walked a little further away while I saw my colleague going for the house. I knew what he was going to do. While I was inside, I heard the kids scream. Today was quite a hot 30 Celsius, 86 Fahrenheit, so I didn't think it was that bad what he did. The colleague came came back with a big smile. I asked him what he did, even though I already knew. He said he sprayed him and now they should be cooled down. He chuckled. They went away. Fast forward 20 minutes later and the kids come back with the mum. She's so mad that she almost slammed the door in the kid's face. Almost. I'm already thinking this should be interesting. Can you explain to me why my son came home crying? She yelled. Me and my colleagues look at each other and they just start laughing. Even though I didn't laugh, I also found it quite funny. We explained to the mum what happened and she's not taking it. You pushed my son to the ground. He's only 8. She yelled as she pointed to my female colleague from earlier. She's dumbfounded because she didn't push him to the ground but push him away. She explains it. The mum doesn't believe her. She demonstrated what she did with a colleague. That doesn't excuse you for touching my kid, the mummy said. My colleagues calmly but with some panicked voices explained that her kids kept walking into her while she was on her phone and screaming into her ears. That still doesn't excuse you. And mummy crossed her arms. My colleague stood up and walked away. She focuses her attention to the other colleague. And you, she pointed at him. You destroyed my son's bike while spraying them with water. This colleague does not take BS from anyone and said to her, do you want to know why? There's no excuse, you destroyed his bike, mum said. This is where I jump in because I wasn't present for those interactions, but no one talks to my colleagues like this. So what is broken? I asked politely. The battery. I'm already dumbfounded because a battery can take some water. Does it work? I ask. Yeah, but I interrupted her. So nothing is broken. That's not the point. He shouldn't have sprayed them with water. I understand your anger, man, but your boys did ask for this, I said, trying to explain what the boys did in order for them to receive a hose. The mum did not like my reasoning because the dearest son can't do anything wrong. I explained that actions have consequences, but nope, this action was uncalled for. I tell her that her kids were really rude to me and my staff. Not only that, but the words they yelled at me and the visitors around here are not welcome in here. Oh, he would never say that. Our cameras will say otherwise. At this point, she realizes the cameras. So you have proof that one of your colleagues attacked my kid and the other one using brute force. I will get my husband here and he already has a criminal record, so you better watch your tongue. Respect is earned and the way they're behaving, they don't get any respect. Is that a threat? I ought to sue you for damage. Me jumping back in, I recall you said that nothing broke. Well, if it does, I know where to find you, pointing at my colleague. This sounds like a threat and we don't take kindly to threats, my colleague said. Is that a threat? She said. Take that how you will. They go back and forward, not going anywhere but repeating the same stuff over and over. Somewhere in the back and forward, the kid said, what kind of petting zoo mistreats kids? Eventually, I jump back in. The ones who deserve it. The mum turns her anger to me. I have a problem with your colleagues. The one who abused my kid and is secretly listening in and the one who hosed them. It is my problem if you threaten my colleagues. Fire them, the mum said. Excuse me? I was surprised by this response. You heard me. Fire them. They both abused my kids. Ma'am, please leave. We aren't getting anywhere here and your attitude towards my colleagues and me is not welcome. Actions have consequences, do they not? Yeah, ma'am, and so do yours. So this is your last chance before we call the police. This is the moment she realizes she's not getting anywhere. While walking away, she screamed, I know you're open until 7:30 and my husband will come. None of us corrected her because we're open until 5 and this happened at 4:30. Yeah, wow, that's bloody awful parenting. Yeah, like the top comment says, I was kinda hoping that the mum would get the hose. Yeah, same, 100%. I can't believe people think they can do stuff like this, especially after how their kids were acting. And yeah, I feel like that's enough for today, guys. Time for something wholesome. David Harbour, how many retweets for you to take my senior photos with me? And David Harbour responds, 25,000, and I get to wear the school sweatshirt and hold a trombone. Wow, when they actually did it, that's so beautiful. Oh, I love that so much. The fact that they organized this and actually did it, that's so cool. I wish Buddy would live forever. Oh, wait a second. I wish Buddy would live as long as me. Oh, they don't want to be alone without you. That's so cute, but also sad at the same time. Sad when you think about the dog being alone, but then it gets a lot more wholesome when you think you lost it all, but you still have shrimp friend. Yeah, damn right, you've always got shrimp friend. Me, the homie succeeding in life. Oh yeah, absolutely. Really good wholesome memes today. And once again, thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if you did and you want to see more episodes like this, make sure you like and subscribe. And the very fitting comment of the day goes to Fred Skull 1618. People's sense of entitlement never ceases to amaze me. Yeah, genuinely, it's so shocking sometimes. Like, how can people be this entitled or annoying or frustrating or rude? We read some bloody unsettling stuff. I'm so grateful that you guys come along on these adventures with me. Thank you so much for the support, and let's do it again. again tomorrow, shall we? Make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say because I say it every single day. Bye!